Bae Do-yun is already on the ground, not the dramatic slow-motion fall of a hero. The pathetic, crumpled heap of a man who just caught a boot to the ribs from 3 C-rank thugs. It's a Monday night in the back alley behind Haeundae's fish market, and our boy is getting absolutely worked. The stench of rotting fish guts mixes with the iron tang of his own blood. One of the thugs, a guy with a neck thicker than a fire hydrant, crouches down and yanks Do-yun's wallet from his back pocket. Another one, all acne scars and bad intentions, kicks him in the stomach for good measure. The third just stands there, flipping through the cash with a bored look on his face. 24 years old, unemployed, and officially the lowest-ranked E-class in the entire national registry. That's our protagonist. His power classification is technically non-combat, which is the official's polite way of saying he has no useful power at all. His stats are a joke. His bank account is a flat 0. And right now, his face is getting intimately familiar with the grime on the pavement. He can't fight back. He can't even block. The fire hydrant neck grabs a fistful of Do-yun's hair and yanks his head up. He asks our boy if he wants to cry about it. Do-yun doesn't cry. He just breathes, ragged and shallow. Each inhale a stab of pain where his ribs are probably cracked. And that's when he sees him. Through the hazy streetlight at the mouth of the alley, a silhouette cuts a path across the main street. It's a tall man in a perfectly tailored black suit, his dark hair slicked back, his posture radiating the casual arrogance of someone who has never been on the losing end of anything. Dong-hyun, the S-rank #1, the national hero, the guy on every billboard, every cereal box, every charity PSA about the power within all of us. Do-yun's vision is blurring, but he knows that profile anywhere. Everyone knows that profile. Ma is just walking with a phone pressed to his ear, laughing at something, flanked by 2 assistants carrying his bag. The gap between them is maybe 15 meters. Nothing to a man who can cross a city block in the time it takes a normal person to blink. Do-yun's swollen lips crack open. He doesn't shout a threat. He doesn't curse him out for being a symbol of the system that keeps E-ranks in the gutter. He just begs. He says please. He says help me. His voice is a wrecked, wet croak. Dong-hyun pauses. For one perfect crystalline second, the world holds its breath. The thug holding Do-yun's hair freezes, suddenly very aware of who is looking their way. Acne Scars mumbles an expletive under his breath. Moneyhand stuffs the wallet into his jacket and tries to look casual, like he's just a guy leaning against a dumpster at 11 p.m. for completely normal reasons. Ma's gaze slides over the scene. It doesn't linger on Do-yun's busted face. It doesn't register the blood on the pavement or the arms pinned behind his back. It's the kind of look you give a piece of gum stuck to the bottom of your shoe. Something to be ignored. Contempt slides over his features like a window shade pulling down. Then his assistant says something, and Dong-hyun just walks away. He turns his back on a bleeding man begging for his life and melts into the neon glow of the city night. Fire hydrant laughs, a wet, guttural sound. He says something about Do-yun thinking he could just summon the #1, as if he mattered. As if he was worth the extra 10 seconds out of a god's day. The beating doesn't stop. In fact, it gets a little worse because they're embarrassed a big shot saw them. They take his phone. They take his jacket. They take the crumpled bills he had stuffed in his sock for emergency noodles. By the time they're done, Bae Do-yun is just a pile of broken bones and ruined dignity left to leak into the gutter. He doesn't know how long he lies there. Long enough for the fish market to go silent. Long enough for his blood to start drying into a sticky crust on his skin. He pushes himself up. His left arm screams at him. His ribs are a symphony of sharp, stabbing protests. He stumbles to his feet and starts the long, slow shuffle back to his shoebox apartment. It's a single room up 5 flights of stairs that smell like old frying oil and regret. He finally pushes the door open. He doesn't bother with the light. He just collapses on the floor, his back against the cold wall, staring at nothing. His eyes land on the one thing in this room he actually cares about, a broken watch. It's sitting on a makeshift shelf alongside a single, faded photograph. The photo is of a smiling woman with kind eyes and his own messy hair. His mother. Gone 3 years now. The watch was hers. It stopped ticking the day she died. A cheap stainless steel thing with a crack spiderwebbing across the glass face. He crawls over. He doesn't have the strength to stand. He reaches up, his fingers trembling, and closes his fist around the cool metal. Clutches it to his chest like a lifeline. Like holding the last piece of her can somehow undo the last 4 hours of his life. The anger comes then. Not a hot, screaming rage, but a cold, quiet, crystallizing fury. It's a hatred so pure it feels like it's freezing the air in his lungs. He thinks about the fire hydrant's fist. He thinks about Acne Scar's boot. He thinks about the stink of the alley, the taste of his own failure, the years of being a non-combatant, a zero potential, a joke in a world of titans. But mostly he thinks about Ma Dong-hyun, the laugh, the casual dismissal, the way his eyes just slid right over him as if he didn't exist. He grips the broken watch tighter. He grinds his teeth so hard, the pressure stabs up into his temples. His vision begins to tunnel. A high-pitched whine fills his ears, the sound of his own blood pressure spiking into the red. He isn't just thinking about revenge, he is manifesting it. He is physically charging the air around him with the voltage of pure, undiluted spite. And then, something in the universe snaps. The high-pitched whine in his ears just stops. The world outside his window goes absolutely silent. No distant traffic, no rattling pipes, no drunk neighbors arguing through paper-thin walls. Just a deep, profound, unnatural nothing. He opens his eyes. He looks up at the cracked ceiling, waiting for the sound to come back, waiting for his brain to finish its meltdown, but it stays quiet. He looks at the window. A single moth is suspended in the air just outside the glass. Its dusty wings are completely still. It isn't hovering. It's frozen, caught mid-flap like a specimen pinned to an invisible board. He scrambles backward, his shoulder blades smacking against the wall. He stares at the moth. He stares at the broken watch still clutched in his white-knuckled grip. The second hand is still. He squints. It's not just still because it's broken. The dust motes floating in the shaft of moonlight near the window aren't floating. They're hanging there, a constellation of glittering points, locked in the air like stars trapped in a photograph. This isn't a trick of the light. This isn't his concussed brain feeding him hallucinations. He lets out a shaky breath, but the sound is swallowed by the oppressive, absolute stillness. Everything is frozen. The whole world, the whole city, the entire spinning planet is trapped in a single, silent moment. And Bae Do-yun is the only thing still moving. He pushes himself to his feet, ignoring the flare of pain in his ribs. His hands are shaking, but his mind is suddenly, terrifyingly clear. He walks to the window. He waves his hand in front of the frozen moth. Nothing happens. He touches the glass. It's cold, solid, real. He turns and looks at his cramped little room, his prison of failure and rotten noodles. Everything is exactly as it was a moment ago, but completely, fundamentally different. He has stopped time. He doesn't know how. He doesn't know why. The broken watch in his hand feels almost warm to the touch now, like it's humming with a frequency he can't quite hear. The realization starts to dawn on him, slow and heavy and terrifying. He looks at the clock on his microwave. The green digital numbers are frozen on 11:47. He blinks. They flicker to 11:48. Sound crashes back into the world. The neighbor's television blares to life through the wall. A car horn blares 3 floors down. The moth flutters away into the darkness. Bae Do-yun stumbles back from the window, his chest heaving, sweat beading on his forehead. He just stands there in the middle of the room, clutching his mother's watch, his heart trying to punch its way out of his chest. He isn't stupid. He knows exactly what a power like this means. Time manipulation is unheard of. It's the stuff of conspiracy forums and late-night talk show hypotheticals. A cheat code that doesn't exist on any official registry. Static enhancements, elemental blasts, super speed, strength. That's the world he lives in. But this is a total violation of every physical law the Ranker system is built on. He looks down at the watch. He thinks about the thugs who took his wallet. He thinks about the fire hydrant's fist and acne scar's boot. He looks at the door, then he's moving. He doesn't think. He just acts. He bursts out of his apartment and takes the stairs 2 at a time, ignoring the agony in his ribs, ignoring the fact that he should be in a hospital. He hits the street and starts running. A wild, desperate, half-crazed sprint toward the fish market. He has no plan. He has no strategy. But he has a rage that's been simmering for 4 hours straight, and a brand new impossible power crackling in his veins. He finds them exactly where he left them. They're loitering near the same alley, counting his money, laughing about the pathetic E-rank who cried like a baby. Fire hydrant neck is leaning against a lamppost. Acne scars is showing money hands something on his phone. They don't see Do-yun coming. They don't see him plant his feet 20 meters away, his chest heaving, his eyes wild. He doesn't announce himself. He doesn't give a speech. He just clutches the broken watch so hard the cracked glass bites into his palm, focuses every shred of his hatred on those 3 faces, and screams inside his own skull. He commands the universe to just stop. Nothing happens. The thugs keep laughing. His heart plummets into his stomach. He tries again. screwing his eyes shut, clenching every muscle in his body, summoning that same cold, crystalline fury from his apartment. He pictures Ma Dong-hyun's dismissive sneer. He hears the wet crunch of his own ribs. He feels the pavement grinding into his cheek. And then, just like before, a high-pitched whine fills his ears and the world goes dead silent. He opens his eyes. Fire hydrant neck is frozen mid-guffaw, his mouth a wide, ugly hole in his face. Acne scars is statue still, his finger hovering over his phone screen. Money Hands is completely motionless, a wad of Do-yun's cash frozen in his outstretched grasp. Our boy doesn't hesitate this time. He walks right up to them. This isn't a drill. This is the real deal. He knows he can move. He can touch things. The air feels thicker, like he's moving through invisible syrup, but he can interact with the world just fine. He tests a theory. He tries to slap the wallet out of Money Hand's grip, but the moment his fingers make contact with the man's skin, a jolt of resistance shoves him back. He can't harm living beings in the stop. Fine. He gets creative. He unzips Money Hand's jacket, reaches into the inner pocket, and pulls out his own wallet. He slips it into his pocket. He takes the cash from the frozen fingers. He takes Money Hand's own wallet too, just on principle. He moves to acne scars, unlaces his boots, and ties the laces together in a complex, triple-knotted mess. Then, the pièce de résistance. He walks over to the fire hydrant, the one who yanked his hair and mocked his pain. He unzips the guy's pants and lets them fall around his ankles. He does the same to his boxers. He positions a discarded fish head from the market stall right in front of the guy's crotch. He steps back, admiring his work. 10 seconds. It's almost up. He doesn't know how he knows, but he can feel a tension in the air, a vibration in his skull that tells him the clock is about to start ticking again. He turns and jogs back to the shadowed corner where he started. He crouches down, one hand braced against the cold brick, and waits. The watch on his microwave had jumped by roughly 10 seconds. The high-pitched whine in his ears fades. Sound slams back into the world like a physical force. For a split second, the three thugs just stand there, their bodies completing the motions of laughter and conversation. Then the reality of their new situation crashes down in a wave of pure confusion. Acne Scars takes a step and immediately face plants into the pavement, his boots yanked together by the knotted laces. Money Hand stares at his empty grip, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and then pure, incandescent rage. He starts patting his chest, his pockets, screaming about a ghost, about a pickpocket, about someone being a dead man. But the real show is the fire hydrant. He looks down. He sees the fish head. He screams. It's a high-pitched, emasculated shriek that cuts through the neon night like a siren. He scrambles to pull up his pants, trips over his own boxers, and face plants right into the dead fish's glassy-eyed stare. From the shadows, Bae Do-yun watches. His ribs still ache. His lip is still split. But a small, sharp, icy smile cuts across his battered face. Tears are streaming down his cheeks, but he isn't crying from the pain. He slips out of the shadows. His ribs still scream. His lip is still split and throbbing. But that small, icy smile doesn't leave his face. Three thugs are still a mess of tangled limbs and fish-scented humiliation. Our boy doesn't stick around to watch the encore. He limps back toward his apartment, one hand pressed against his cracked ribs. Every step is agony. Every breath is a saw blade in his chest. But none of that matters right now. Because for the first time in his miserable, E-rank, no-hope life, Bae Do-yun isn't just a victim. He's a threat. He's a ghost. He's the guy who just pantsed a C-rank bully without leaving a single fingerprint. The neon glow of Haeundae's nightlife washes over him as he shuffles home. Drunk businessmen stumble past without a second glance. Street vendor flips sizzling skewers, the smoke curling into the humid air. Do-yun doesn't notice any of it. His mind is still in that alley, still frozen in those 10 impossible seconds. He keeps replaying the moment the high-pitched whine filled his ears and the world just stopped. It felt like a fever dream, but the weight of his recovered wallet in his pocket says otherwise. And the fact that he's still alive, still walking, still not bleeding out in a gutter, that's his new reality now. He finally reaches his apartment building, the paint peeling, the elevator perpetually out of order. He hauls himself up the stairs, gripping the railing like a lifeline. By the time he shoves his door open and collapses onto his threadbare mattress, he's drenched in sweat. His body wants to shut down. His brain won't let it. He lies there in the dark, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. The broken watch is still clutched in his fist. He brings it up to his face and stares at the stopped hands and the cracked glass. It stopped ticking the day his mother died 3 years ago. And now it's somehow the key to breaking the entire world. He doesn't understand the connection. He doesn't need to understand it. All he knows is that when he focuses his hatred through this cheap piece of stainless steel, reality bends to his will. 10 seconds. That's what the microwave clock showed when he first tested it. 10 seconds of absolute frozen silence, where he's the only moving thing in the universe. The power is terrifying. It's also intoxicating. He needs to know if he can do it again, right now. Without the adrenaline, without the rage, without 3 thugs standing in front of him. He pushes himself upright, ignoring the fire in his ribs. He picks up an empty ramen cup from his nightstand and sets it on the floor across the room. Then he clutches the watch, shuts his eyes, and reaches for that same cold fury. He doesn't picture the thugs this time. He pictures Ma Dong-hyun's face. The smug, disinterested sneer. The way he glanced down at a bleeding, broken E-rank like he was dog mess on a sidewalk. The way he just kept walking. The hatred surges up, black and freezing, and the high-pitched whine fills his skull. The ramen cup is glued to the floor like it's been nailed there. The dust motes floating in the air are suspended mid-drift. The distant sound of a police siren is just gone. He stands up and walks over to the cup. He picks it up and moves it to the windowsill. Then he walks back to his bed and waits. Tension in his skull releases. The whine fades, and the world lurches back into motion. He checks the digital clock on his microwave. 10 seconds again. He grins so wide his split lip splits even further, and he doesn't care. The taste of blood is the taste of victory. Our boy can turn the lights out on the whole planet whenever he wants. He runs the experiment 4 more times, staggering across his cramped apartment, repositioning that sad little ramen cup like it's the most important object in history. By the 4th use, a dull ache starts pulsing behind his left eye. By the 5th, the ache sharpens into a spike of pain that makes him stumble. He stops after 5. He's learned enough. The power has a limit. He can feel it in his bones. He pushes too hard, and something in his skull is going to crack. But for now, the limit is manageable. 10 seconds per use, with a cooldown he can feel but can't yet measure. And a price of mounting pain. He can work with that. He collapses back onto his mattress, chest heaving, heart hammering, eyes bloodshot. But he's not tired. He's wired. His brain is a storm of scheming and calculation. He thinks about the ranking system. Every awakened human is slotted into a tier, from the newly awakened nobodies at F to the god-level tyrants at S. He's officially an E-rank non-combatant. That's the joke the thugs were laughing about. That's the label that made Ma Dong-hyun decide he wasn't worth the oxygen. But the ranking system is based on public matches, on measurable feats, on wins and losses recorded and broadcast for the entire nation to dissect. If he can enter the arena and start taking down fighters above his weight class, the ranking board will have no choice but to adjust. And that's his ticket to the top. That's how he gets face-to-face with the number 1. He fumbles for his cracked phone and starts scrolling through the Hunter Association's match registry. His thumb trembles. Not from fear, from the sheer electric thrill of having a plan that isn't just get beaten and hope for mercy. He finds the page for open challenge matches. Any ranker can sign up. Low entry fee. No gatekeeping. Just show up and fight. He scrolls past the F ranks without a glance. He's done being a bottom feeder. He's done being the guy who gets his wallet stolen in an alley. He scrolls to the B rank tier. That's where he needs to start. B rank fighters are dangerous. They're fast. They're strong. They'll humiliate him on camera if he screws this up. But he won't screw this up. He has an ability that nobody else in the world possesses. He can freeze the entire fight whenever he wants. He can move unseen. He can set traps. He can turn the strongest, fastest, most arrogant opponent into a confused mess. A slow, cold smirk spreads across his face as he taps the registration button for the next open B-rank match. Submission form asks for his name and current rank. He types Bae Do-yun, E-rank, with steady, deliberate thumbs. That's going to raise some eyebrows. The association algorithm will probably flag him. A non-combat E-rank challenging a B-rank is basically asking to be turned into a viral clip of someone getting their ribs rearranged. And he knows exactly how Ma Dong-hyun will react when he hears about it. He'll laugh. He'll roll his eyes. He'll maybe even enjoy watching the footage of a party trickster getting demolished. Let him laugh. Let him think Do-yun is just a desperate fool chasing a death wish. Because that's the beauty of this power. Nobody sees him coming. The form asks for a reason for the challenge. Usually, people write things like, to test my strength, or to honor my guild. Do-yun types 4 words. Personal goal, no comment. He submits. A confirmation email pings onto his screen immediately. assigning him a preliminary opponent. No Seo-hyun, B rank, known for aggressive charge tactics and a cocky attitude. He reads the opponent's profile. The guy has a 70% win rate. He's known for steamrolling weaker opponents in the first 10 seconds. Perfect. Do-yun turns off his phone, tosses it onto the mattress, and stares at the ceiling. The ache in his head is finally fading, replaced by a simmering, quiet confidence. He's going to fight a B rank in a packed arena. He's going to win. He's going to climb. And he's going to stand in front of Dong-hyun, look him in the eye, and show him exactly what an E-rank non-combatant can become. He doesn't know how many matches it'll take. He doesn't know how much pain he'll have to endure. But he knows the endgame. That crowning moment when the #1 in the world is brought low, not by a stronger fighter, but by a forgotten nobody with a stopped watch and a grudge. He gets up again, slowly, carefully. He crosses the room to the small desk where his mother's photograph sits in a cheap frame. It's faded now. The colors are washing out. But her smile is still kind, and his own messy hair in the image reminds him of a time when things weren't so broken. He touches the frame with the hand that still clutches her watch. A promise forms in his chest. Not to her memory, not to the universe, to himself. He's going to tear down the arrogant system that let a man like Dong-hyun climb to the top. He's going to make every ranker in this city understand that power isn't measured by a letter next to your name. It's measured by what you're willing to do when the whole world counts you out. He takes a deep, steadying breath. The pain in his ribs is still there. The bruises will take weeks to heal. The match is in 7 days. He'll need to train somehow. He'll need to understand his power's limits inside and out. He'll need to be smarter and faster and more unpredictable than a fighter who's been dominating the B tier for years. But for the first time in his entire life, Bae Do-yun isn't afraid of the challenge. He's hungry for it. He turns away from the photograph and walks to the small window overlooking the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Dong-hyun is probably lounging in a penthouse suite, completely unaware that a ghost just crawled out of a back alley with his name on a debt. Do-yun stares at the distant glow of the arena district. He can see the massive screens flashing highlights from the day's matches. A video clip of Ma's last fight, probably. The guy loves to showboat, loves to remind everyone that he's untouchable. Our boy watches the flickering lights and feels the hatred coil tighter in his gut. But it's a controlled hatred now. A weapon. A battery he can tap whenever he needs to freeze the world. He's going to need every drop of it. He pulls out his phone again and navigates to Dong-hyun's official fan page. The comment section is exactly what he expected. Fans worshipping him like a god. Calling him the pinnacle of Korean rankers. Posting slow-motion highlights of his wins. Do-yun scrolls with a flat expression. The more he reads, the more he realizes how deep the rot goes. Ma hasn't just built a career on being strong. He's built a cult. He's monetized his arrogance. He's turned looking down on the weak into a brand. And the public eats it up. Do-yun closes the page and pockets his phone. He doesn't need to see any more. His path is clear. Public humiliation. Total destruction of the image. Defeat so embarrassing that the entire nation can't unsee it. He reaches down and pulls off his blood-stained shirt. His torso is a mess of purple and black bruises. The cracked ribs are visible as a subtle, wrong angle on his left side. He'll need to wrap them before the match. He'll need to be in fighting shape despite the damage. He doesn't have the luxury of time. He dabs a wet cloth on his face, cleaning the blood from his split lip, wincing at the sting. But beneath the pain, the cold smile remains. He's no longer the guy who begged for help. He's no longer the E-rank who crawled home to die. He's the man who's going to bring the world's #1 to his knees. And it all starts in 7 days. He crawls back onto his mattress, clutching the broken watch to his chest, letting the exhaustion finally drag him on. His last thought before sleep claims him is a simple one. It's not a plea. It's not a prayer. It's a statement of fact. The game is on. And the #1 has no idea he's already a target. The registration booth at the Hunter Association's Busan branch is a cramped glass cubicle that smells like stale coffee and burnt toner. A bored clerk with acne scars and a crooked name tag doesn't even look up when Do-yun slides his ID across the counter. Our boy's still limping, still bruised, still looking like he crawled out of a dumpster behind the fish market. The clerk finally glances at the screen, then at Do-yun, then back at the screen. He asks if this is some kind of joke. Do-yun tells him to process the registration. The clerk mutters something about E-ranks with death wishes and starts typing. The match registry system is automated now. It scrapes public ranking data, pairs fighters based on availability and tier proximity, and spits out a schedule. Do-yun watches the screen flicker through a dozen names before it stops on one. No So-hyun. B rank. Specialization. Close quarters combat. Reinforced bone density. Berserker-style rushdown. She's got a 73% win rate and a reputation for ending matches in under 2 minutes. The clerk reads the matchup and actually laughs out loud. He tells Do-yun that this woman once shattered a C rank's entire ribcage with a single shoulder tackle. Do-yun doesn't react. He just asks when the match is. 7 days. Saturday night. The Haeundae Underground Arena. The one they use for mid-tier open challenges. The clerk prints the confirmation, stamps it with the association's blood-red seal, and hands it over like he's passing a death warrant. Do-yun folds the paper, tucks it into his jacket, and limps back out into the cold Busan evening. He's got 1 week to turn himself from a punching bag into someone who can survive a B-rank berserker. The walk home takes 40 minutes because every step sends a dull throb through his cracked ribs. Halfway there, he stops at a convenience store and buys a roll of medical tape, a box of painkillers, and 3 packs of instant ramen. The cashier stares at his bruised face a little too long. Do-yun doesn't bother explaining. Back in his apartment, he strips off his jacket and stands in front of the cracked mirror bolted to the bathroom wall. The reflection is ugly. Purple-black bruises spread across his torso like spilled ink. His left side has that subtle wrong angle where the ribs are misaligned. His lip is still split, scabbed over but puffy. He tears off a strip of medical tape with his teeth and starts wrapping his torso. Every pull of the tape sends fire through his side. He doesn't stop. He tightens the wrap until his breathing is shallow, but his ribs are locked in place. Then he dry swallows 2 painkillers and stares at himself in the mirror. The face looking back is different from the one that begged Dong-hyun for help 3 days ago. Colder. Sharper. There's something hungry behind the eyes now. He spends the next 2 hours on his phone, digging up every match recording of No So-hyun he can find. There are 17 public uploads. He watches all of them. Her pattern is brutal and simple. Bull rush the opener. Close the distance before the opponent can set their footing. Chain a shoulder tackle into a knee strike into a ground and pound finish. Most of her opponents don't last 60 seconds. The ones who try to dodge get chased down. The ones who try to block get their guard shattered. She's fast. She's relentless. And she's never fought anyone who can stop time. Do-yun pulls up the Hunter Association's rulebook for open matches. He skims the sections on disqualification, ring out, and submission. Then he finds the line he's looking for. A match ends when one fighter is unable to continue, voluntarily forfeits, or is removed from the ring for more than 10 seconds. He reads it 3 times. 10 seconds. The exact length of his freeze. He sets the phone down and looks at the broken watch still strapped to his wrist. The cracked glass catches the dim light from the ceiling bulb. Hands haven't moved since the day his mother died. But every time he focuses his hatred through it, the world stops breathing. He's got a plan forming now. It's not about beating No So-hyun in a straight fight. It's about using the freeze to make her beat herself. The days before the match blur into a rhythm of pain and repetition. Do-yun can't train his body. Not with cracked ribs. Not in 7 days. So he trains his mind instead. He practices triggering the freeze fast. He learns to find the cold fury in his chest without needing to be in immediate danger. He learns to hold the image of Ma Dong-hyun's contemptuous face in his head like a switch. Every time he flips it, the high-pitched whine fills his skull, and the world goes gray and silent. He times the cooldown with his phone's stopwatch. 32 seconds between uses, give or take. He pushes to 3 rapid activations, and the ache behind his left eye comes back sharper than before. 4 uses and his nose starts bleeding. 5 and he nearly blacks out on the floor of his apartment. He doesn't push to 6. Not yet. He needs to know where the cliff is without falling off it before the fight. By Friday night, he's got the activation down to a reflex. Hatred. Whine. Freeze. Then 10 seconds of a silent, motionless world where he's the only thing that moves. He practices small interactions during the freeze, moving a cup from the desk to the floor, unplugging his phone charger and coiling the cord. Flipping a light switch, every object he touches stays exactly where he puts it when time resumes. The cup doesn't teleport back to the desk. The charger doesn't replug itself. The switch stays flipped. He's not just stopping time. He's editing the world in 10-second bursts. Saturday arrives gray and cold. The Haeundae Underground Arena sits beneath an old shipping depot, accessible through a freight elevator guarded by 2 C-rank bouncers. They check Do-yun's registration, eye his E-rank badge, and exchange a look that says they've already written him off. The elevator rattles down 3 floors and opens onto a concrete chamber lit by flickering fluorescent tubes. The crowd is maybe 200 people. Not huge, but loud. They're packed into bleachers around a sunken fighting pit with padded walls and a blood-stained canvas floor. A commentator with a shaved head and a wireless mic is already warming up the audience. He's running through the night's card, hyping the main event. When he gets to the preliminary match, his voice drips with amusement. He announces that an E-rank non-combatant named Bae Do-yun has volunteered to step into the pit with No Seo-hyun. The crowd laughs. Someone shouts that they hope the cleanup crew is on standby. Do-yun walks toward the fighter's entrance without looking at anyone. The prep room is a narrow concrete box with a metal bench and a flickering overhead light. A Federation official checks his vitals, confirms his rank badge is authentic, and hands him a mouthguard still sealed in plastic. The official asks if he has a next of kin listed in the system. Do-yun says no. The official doesn't push it. He just marks something on his clipboard and leaves. Through the walls, Do-yun can hear the crowd's energy shifting. No Seo-hyun must have arrived. He hears her name being chanted. He hears the thud of her boots on the canvas. He hears the commentator listing her career highlights, like he's announcing a champion, not a mid-tier brawler. Do-yun unwraps the mouthguard, shoves it into his mouth, and stands up. The broken watch is cold against his wrist. He walks out into the pit. The lights are brighter than he expected. Hot white beams that make the concrete floor look like bleached bone. No Seo-hyun stands on the opposite side of the ring, rolling her shoulders. She's taller than him by half a head, broad-shouldered, thick-necked, with arms that look like they could bend steel rebar. Her hair is buzzed short. Her grin is wide and confident. She sees his bruises, his taped ribs, his limp, and her grin gets even wider. She tells him this is going to be the shortest match of her career. The commentator counts down from 10. The crowd roars. The bell rings. And No Seo-hyun explodes forward. She crosses half the ring in under a second, her right shoulder dropping low for the signature tackle that's shattered a dozen opponents. Do-yun doesn't try to dodge. He doesn't try to block. He just stares at her charging form, finds the cold fury waiting in his chest, and screams inside his skull. The high-pitched whine fills everything. The world goes gray. No Seo-hyun freezes mid-charge, her face locked in that confident grin, her shoulder inches from impact. The crowd is a wall of motionless statues. The commentator's mouth hangs open, silent. Do-yun steps calmly to the left. 3 steps. That's all he needs. He positions himself directly behind her frozen form, plants his feet, and waits. Time slams back into motion. No Seo-hyun's shoulder tackles empty air. Her momentum carries her forward, off balance, confused. She stumbles 3 steps before she realizes her target isn't where he was supposed to be. Do-yun is already behind her. He doesn't punch her. He doesn't kick her. He just reaches out with both hands and shoves her as hard as he can between the shoulder blades. It's not a strong push. His ribs scream at the effort. But she's already off balance, already stumbling, and the shove sends her sprawling face first onto the canvas. The crowd goes dead silent. No Seo-hyun scrambles to her feet, spinning around with wild eyes. She doesn't understand what just happened. She was right there, right in front of him. Then he wasn't. Now he's standing 10 feet away with his hands at his sides, and a flat, unreadable expression. She charges again. Faster this time. Angrier. Do-yun triggers the freeze the moment she commits to the rush. The world goes gray and silent. He walks around her frozen body in a slow half-circle, stops directly in her blind spot, and crouches low. Time resumes. No Seo-hyun's charge hits nothing but air for the second time. Before she can recover, Do-yun sweeps his leg across her ankles. It's a clumsy, untrained sweep. His form is terrible, but she's already moving forward at full speed. And the sweep turns her momentum into a brutal faceplant. Her chin bounces off the canvas. The crowd gasps. Somewhere in the bleachers, someone starts booing. No Seo-hyun pushes herself up slowly this time. The grin is gone. Her lip is bleeding where her teeth cut into it. She's breathing hard. She's looking at him differently now. Not like prey, like a puzzle she can't solve. She asks what kind of trick this is. Do-yun doesn't answer. He just raises one hand and beckons her forward with 2 fingers. The crowd loses its mind. She comes at him again, but she's cautious now. She feints left, then lunges right, trying to catch him off guard. Do-yun triggers the freeze. The world goes gray. He walks directly toward her frozen body, reaches down, and unties the laces on her left boot. He pulls the lace completely free, balls it up, and tosses it across the ring. Then he steps back to his original position and lets time resume. No Seo-hyun lunges. Her left foot slips inside her loose boot. She stumbles sideways, catches herself on one knee, and looks down at her missing lace in pure disbelief. The commentator is screaming into his mic, trying to explain what he's seeing. He can't. Nobody can. Do-yun hasn't thrown a single punch. He hasn't blocked a single attack. He's just been standing there, and the B-rank berserker is bleeding and stumbling and looking like a complete amateur. She rises again, slower, angrier, more confused. Her left boot is barely staying on. Her lip is dripping blood onto the canvas. Her eyes are wild. She screams at him to fight her like a man. Do-yun tilts his head. Then he triggers the freeze one more time. He walks forward, calm and steady, and positions himself directly in front of her frozen, screaming face. He's close enough to see the individual drops of blood suspended in the air between them. He reaches out and plants one finger on her forehead. Just one finger, right between her eyes. Then he steps back and lets time resume. No Seo-hyun blinks and finds a finger touching her forehead. She recoils like she's been burned, stumbles backward. Her loose boot betrays her again and she crashes onto her backside in the center of the ring. The crowd is completely silent now. 200 people staring at an E-rank non-combatant who hasn't thrown a single strike and a B-rank berserker who looks like she's been fighting a ghost. Do-yun lowers his hand. He asks if she's done. No Seo-hyun stares up at him from the canvas. Her breathing is ragged. Her eyes are no longer wild. They're scared. She opens her mouth to say something. Then she closes it. She taps the canvas 3 times with her palm. Universal signal for forfeit. The bell rings. The commentator is sputtering, trying to process what he just witnessed. The crowd erupts, not in cheers, in shock, in confusion, in outrage. Some of them are screaming that he cheated. Others are demanding an investigation. A few are just staring with their mouths open. Do-yun doesn't acknowledge any of them. He walks to the edge of the ring, climbs out, and limps toward the fighter's exit without looking back. The Federation official meets him in the prep room with a clipboard and a bewildered expression. He says the match review board is going to have questions. Do-yun pulls the mouthguard out and drops it on the metal bench. He tells the official to review the footage all they want. He never touched her with a single offensive strike. He never broke any rule in the book. The official flips through the match log, frowning harder with each page. He mutters that technically the win is clean. Do-yun nods once and walks out. The freight elevator rattles him back up to street level. The cold night air hits his face, and he finally lets himself wince. The headache is pounding behind his left eye. 3 rapid freezes in a single fight. His nose isn't bleeding yet, but he can feel the pressure building. He leans against the wall of the depot, pulls out the painkillers, and dry swallows 2 more. The match lasted under 3 minutes. The footage is already spreading. By the time he limps back to his apartment, his phone is blowing up with notifications. He ignores all of them. He collapses onto his mattress, clutching the broken watch, and stares at the water-stained ceiling. Somewhere in a penthouse suite across the city, Dong-hyun is probably watching a clip of the fight right now, laughing, calling it a party trick, not yet understanding what it really means. Do-yun closes his eyes. The headache throbs. The ribs ache. But beneath all of it, the cold smile is back. He's not the guy who begged for help in a back alley anymore. He's the guy who just walked into a B-rank arena and made a berserker forfeit without throwing a single punch. And this is only the beginning. The next morning, he wakes up to a voicemail from an unknown number. The voice is smooth, professional, and clearly used to getting what it wants. The man introduces himself as Jung-ho-jin, A-rank, Guildmaster of the Tempest Serpents. He says he watched the match footage 6 times and still can't figure out how Do-yun did it. He says he wants to meet. Noon. A cafe in Seomyeon. He says he's not taking no for an answer. Do-yun listens to the message twice, then deletes it. He pulls on his jacket, checks that the broken watch is secure on his wrist, and heads out the door. The cafe is one of those sleek modern places with exposed concrete walls and 27 different espresso options on the menu. Jung-ho-jin is already there, sitting at a corner table with a black coffee and a tablet showing freeze-frame highlights from last night's match. He's in his late 30s, sharp-jawed, with graying temples and the calm, assessing eyes of someone who's survived 100 fights. He doesn't stand when Do-yun approaches. He just gestures at the empty chair across from him. Do-yun sits. Ho-jin slides the tablet across the table. The freeze frame shows Do-yun standing behind No Seo-hyun while she's mid-charge, facing empty space. Ho-jin asks how he did it. Do-yun says he's fast. Ho-jin laughs without humor. He says the cameras captured every frame. There's no motion blur, No afterimage. One frame he's in front of her. The next frame he's behind her. Nothing in between. He calls it a teleport, a speed hack, or a glitch in the matrix. Do-yun doesn't confirm or deny any of it. He just asks what Ho-jin wants. Ho-jin leans back in his chair and lays it out clean. He wants to sponsor Do-yun. The Tempest Serpents are a mid-tier guild, climbing fast, but lacking a real gimmick to draw public attention. A mystery fighter who can humiliate higher-ranked opponents without throwing a punch is exactly the kind of spectacle that brings in sponsorships, endorsements, and ranking board clout. He offers Do-yun a monthly stipend, access to the guild's training facility, and a guaranteed slot in the next 3 open matches. All Do-yun has to do is wear the Tempest Serpent patch on his jacket and let Ho-jin handle the publicity. Do-yun listens to the entire pitch without interrupting. When Ho-jin finishes, Do-yun shakes his head. He says he's not interested in a sponsorship. Ho-jin's calm expression flickers, just for a second. He asks why not. Do-yun tells him he's not climbing the ranks for money or fame. He's climbing for one specific reason, one specific target. Ho-jin's eyes narrow. He asks who the target is. Do-yun doesn't answer. He just stands up, pushes the tablet back across the table, and turns to leave. Ho-jin calls after him. He says the offer stays open. He says a man with a grudge and a mystery power is going to need allies eventually. Do-yun pauses at the door. He doesn't turn around. He just says he'll think about it. Then he steps out into the cold Busan afternoon and starts walking. He's got 5 days before the next match registration opens. 5 days to rest, to plan, to figure out how far he can push his body before it breaks. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a new thought is forming. Jung Ho-jin is right about one thing. He's going to need allies. Because Ma Dong-hyun isn't just a fighter. He's an empire. And empires don't fall to one man with a grudge. They fall to a carefully aimed wrecking ball. Do-yun pulls out his phone and his thumb hovers over the Hunter Association match portal. Before he can scroll through the rankings, a woman blocks the pavement in front of him. She's mid-30s, press badge dangling from a lanyard, notepad already open. Her smile says she's not taking no for an answer. She introduces herself as Han Ji-soo, freelance reporter for the Korean Hunter Post. She says she watched the match footage from the No Seo-hyun fight about 20 times. Our boy does not stop walking. She falls into step beside him. She says she knows that little disappearing trick wasn't speed. The cameras caught it frame by frame. No blur, no afterimage, straight teleport, or something even stranger. She wants the real story. Do-yun doesn't slow his pace. He says she can read the match report like everybody else. She laughs. She says the match report is a joke. Officials calling it unorthodox evasion, and leaving it at that. She's been covering the ranking scene for 12 years. She knows when a fighter is hiding something, and she knows when a fighter has a real target. She says Do-yun isn't fighting for a rank up. He's not fighting for the paycheck. He's fighting in a direction. So she asks the question that's been eating at her. Who is he aiming for? Do-yun stops. He turns to face her. For once, he doesn't bother with the cold facade. He says the name. Ma Dong-hyun. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't laugh. She just writes something in her notepad. Then she looks up and says she wants to help. Do-yun asks why a reporter would stick her neck out against the world's #1. She says she's been investigating Ma's business deals for 18 months. Fixed contracts, bribed ranking officials, a fighter who seriously injured an opponent in an unsanctioned bout. All buried under money and threats. She's got sources, she's got documents, but she's never had a story explosive enough to make the public care. A nobody E-rank dismantling Ma's empire with humiliation tricks is the fuse she needs. She proposes a trade. He gives Do-yun intel on which fighters Ma is connected to. Helps him pick his matches to maximize public pressure. In return, he gives her exclusive access to his side of the story. Do-yun thinks for about 3 seconds. He knows he can't do this alone. The reporter has fire in her eyes and a grudge of her own. He tells her he's in. She hands him a business card. It's got her personal number and a coffee stain from 3 weeks ago. She says she'll send him a dossier on a fighter named Jang Hyuk-jin. A-rank, speed type. One of the fastest fighters in the Southern Circuit. And here's the interesting part. Jang Hyuk-jin is a public supporter of Ma Dong-hyun, likes to post slick highlight clips and brag about how speed beats technique every time. He's exactly the kind of flashy idiot who would accept a challenge from an E-rank just for laughs. Do-yun tucks the card into his jacket pocket. He starts walking again, but this time the reporter doesn't follow. She already got what she came for. Within 2 hours, his phone pings. Han Ji-soo has sent a 30-slide file on Jang Hyuk-jin's fighting style. Speed bursts in 3-second intervals, a favorite move where he dashes in a wide arc to flank. Weak left ankle from an old injury he's never had treated, and a confirmed record of accepting every open challenge he's ever received. So our boy knows exactly what to do. He limps back to his apartment, wraps his ribs fresh, and then heads to the Hunter Association's Busan branch. The same clerk is behind the desk, the same dismissive stare. Do-yun fills out the challenge form. Opponent: Jang-hyuk-jin, A rank. Requested date: 3 days from now. The clerk reads the form 3 times. She asks if he's serious. Do-yun says he's never been more serious. She stamps the form with a bright red approved seal, shakes her head, and says good luck. He'll need it. The challenge goes live on the public match registry that evening. Jang-hyuk-jin's response lands within 90 minutes. Not an email, not a formal statement. A social media video shot from his gym, shirt soaked in sweat, grinning into the camera. He says an E-rank nobody just tried to call him out. He says he'll give the kid the fight. He says he'll finish it in under 30 seconds. And then he ends the video by looking directly into the lens and telling Do-yun to bring a bucket for his own blood. The comments section explodes. Fans call Do-yun every name in the book. The ranking community treats the whole thing like a joke. But Han Ji-soo is already working. She posts a short editorial piece. E-rank amateur uses unorthodox style to climb rankings. Is the system broken? It goes viral within the day. By the time Saturday rolls around, the Haeundae Underground Arena is packed. Every seat filled. Screens set up outside for the overflow crowd. Bets are running 92% in favor of Jang-hyuk-jin. The odds on Do-yun are so bad, you could get 24 times your money back. Some idiot in the front row holds up a sign that says, "Teleport this." Our boy ignores it. He stands in the prep room. Same cracked ribs, same broken watch on his wrist. The same official asks if he needs a medic on standby. Do-yun says no. He walks out into the ring. The lights hit him. The crowd noise is a wall of sound. Jang-hyuk-jin is already there, bouncing on the balls of his feet, wearing neon green fighting shoes and a smirk that could curdle milk. He's fast just standing still. The announcer calls the match. E-rank versus A rank. The crowd roars. The bell rings. Jang-hyuk-jin blurs forward. 3 seconds. That's his first burst. His footwork is a stutter-step rhythm. Left, right, left, closing the gap fast. Do-yun doesn't move. The world turns gray. The high-pitched whine fills his skull. Time freezes. Jang is suspended mid-lunge. 1 foot off the mat, his body a statue of pure momentum. Do-yun walks around him. He bends down. He grabs the laces of those neon green sneakers. He ties them together in a tight double knot, the kind you can't just kick off. Then he straightens up and moves back to his corner. Time slams back. Jang's foot comes down. The second step catches the knot. His legs tangle. His famous speed turns against him. He pitches forward like a man tripping over a cinder block. Face first, right into the mat. The whole arena goes silent. The referee checks on him. Jang pushes himself up, spits out his mouthguard, and looks at his shoes. His laces are tied together. No way that happened on its own. The ref asks if he wants to continue. Jang screams that he does. He rips the shoes off and throws them out of the ring. Barefoot now. Still fast. A little less stable. The bell rings again. Do-yun hasn't thrown a single punch. Jang lunges a second time. Wider arc this time. The flanking move Han Ji-soo flagged. He's a blur. Do-yun doesn't need to freeze yet. He's been watching the timing. 3 seconds of speed. A half-second pause to reorient. That's the window. He sidesteps. Jang overshoots, spins, and that weak left ankle wobbles. Do-yun sprints backwards. The crowd boos. Jang follows. And now our boy activates the watch again. The humming pressure behind his eyes spikes. Jang is caught mid-swing, knuckles an inch from Do-yun's chin. Do-yun steps aside. He reaches down and unbuckles Jang's fighting belt. Not all the way, just enough so that the next sudden move will drop his shorts. Then he moves to the far side of the ring. Time resumes. Jang's punch hits air. He stumbles forward from his own momentum. The loose belt catches. His shorts slide down to his knees. The crowd gasps. Jang catches himself on the ropes, pants around his ankles, red-faced, screaming. The referee calls a halt. He checks if Jang can continue. Jang is screaming about cheating, about tricks, about how Do-yun won't fight him straight. The ref tells him to secure his gear or forfeit. Jang yanks his shorts up and ties them with a ripped shoelace from his discarded shoes. The match continues. Do-yun feels the headache now. Sharp. Behind the left eye. 2 freezes in one fight. One more and he's bleeding. But Jang's cool is gone. He's charging wild now. No rhythm, no arcs. Just rage. Do-yun doesn't need the watch for this one. He steps aside again. Jang's own speed carries him past the ropes. Right out of the ring, the 10 count starts. The crowd is on its feet. Jang climbs back in at 8 seconds, but his face says he already lost. He knows it. Everyone knows it. The ref signals for the match to resume. Do-yun stands center ring, hands at his sides. Not a single punch thrown. Not a single bruise from his opponent. Jang takes 1 step forward. His ankle rolls. The same weak one. He crumples. The ref calls the match. Technical knockout. The arena goes dead silent. Then the chaos starts. Do-yun stands there, breathing through the headache, his vision blurring just a little. He didn't just win. He made an A-rank speedster break himself trying to land a hit. The medical team swarms Jang. Do-yun walks to his corner. Han Ji-soo is at the press rails, snapping pictures, eyes wide. She's already filing the story. He can read the headline from 50 feet away. E-rank trickster humiliates Ma Dong-hyun's speed ace. What's the number 1 hiding? Do-yun has done it again. The medical team rushes past Do-yun without even glancing at him. They're all over Jang Hyuk-jin, icing that ruined ankle, cutting off the tape. Our boy just stands in his corner, breathing slow and shallow through his mouth. The headache is a hot nail behind his left eye now. Not the dull ache from before, this one pulses. Every heartbeat sends a fresh spike of pain through his skull. He grips the ropes and waits for the world to stop wobbling. The crowd doesn't know what to do with itself. Half of them are screaming about cheating. The other half are laughing so hard they can't breathe. Some guy 3 rows back is already uploading the shoelace clip. Do-yun watches the referee raise his hand. Winner by technical knockout. The announcer says it like he's reading a typo. E-rank defeats A-rank. The odds board in the corner glitches and resets. 24-1 just became a whole lot of empty wallets. Han Ji-soo is still at the press rail. He's not taking pictures anymore. She's just staring at him with this look. Part calculation, part genuine shock. She mouths something he can't hear over the noise. Probably, "What the hell did you just do?" Do-yun hops down from the ring. His legs are shaky, but they hold. The cracked ribs complain with every step. He doesn't care. He walks past the medical team. He walks past Jang, who's still screaming about his laces and his belt and his shorts. The A-rank speedster is crying actual tears of frustration. Grown man, barefoot, pants held up with a ripped shoelace, sobbing into a towel. Do-yun doesn't look back. The hallway to the prep room is concrete and cold. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Every step echoes. He makes it 5 doors down before his vision swims. The gray tiles tilt sideways. He catches himself on the wall with one palm. His hand is shaking. That's new. He slides down until he's sitting on the floor, back against the cold cinder block. The watch is still on his wrist. The cracked glass catches the light. He stares at it and counts his breaths. 2. 3. The headache doesn't fade. It settles in like it's renting space. He closes his eyes and replays the fight. 2 freezes. First one, tied the laces. Second one, loosened the belt. And that second one nearly dropped him. He'd felt it the moment time snapped back. A sharp spike behind the left eye, like someone drove an ice pick through the socket. His nose had stayed dry, but barely. He touches his upper lip now. Clean. One more freeze in that ring, and he would have been bleeding down his chin on live broadcast. The math is ugly. 3 freezes in a single fight. Nosebleed. Probably black spots in his vision. 4. Blinding pain. Maybe lose motor control. 5. Blackout. He's already tested the 5 freeze limit in his apartment. He passed out on the floor and woke up 2 hours later with a headache that lasted 3 days. And that was without cracked ribs, without an opponent trying to cave his face in, without the adrenaline dump and the crowd and the lights. His body is the bottleneck, not the watch, not the power, just the meat and bone it runs through. He pushes himself up. The wall helps. He limps the rest of the way to the prep room. Inside, the metal bench is cold. He sits. The same official from before sticks his head in and asks if he needs a medic. Do-yun says no. The man leaves. The door clicks shut. Silence. Do-yun pulls his mouthguard out of his pocket. Still sealed in plastic. He never needed it. 2 fights now, no Seo-hyun and Jang Hyuk-jin, and he hasn't thrown a single punch. Hasn't taken a single hit he didn't walk in with.
He drops the mouthguard on the bench.
It clatters. He unwraps the medical tape around his ribs. The bruising underneath is ugly, purple and yellow and black, in a map of the beating those 3 thugs gave him. But it's healing. Slowly, he rewraps it tighter. The pressure helps. He dry swallows 2 more painkillers from the box in his bag. Then he just sits there, breathing, waiting for the spike behind his eye to dull. It doesn't. 40 minutes pass. The arena empties. He hears the last of the crowd filing out, the announcer's booth going dark, the cleanup crew dragging mats. Han Ji-soo finds him in the prep room. She's got her press badge clipped to her lapel and her phone in one hand. The screen is lit up with notifications. She says his name like she's testing if he's still conscious. He looks up. She asks if he's okay. He says he's fine. She doesn't believe him. She sits down on the bench across from him and pulls up a video on her phone. It's already got 300,000 views. The shoelace moment. Slow motion. Zoomed in. Somebody added circus music. She asks if this was the plan. Do-yun says the plan was to win. She laughs, but it's a nervous laugh. The kind a reporter makes when her source just did something that's going to blow up her entire beat. She tells him the editorial piece she filed last week is already trending again. People are connecting the dots. E-rank nobody takes down No Seo-hyun with 0 strikes. Then he calls out Ma Dong-hyun's personal speed ace. Then he humiliates him on livestream without throwing a punch. She says it looks deliberate. It looks like a campaign. Do-yun doesn't answer. He just rewraps the watch strap around his wrist and tightens it. She asks what his next move is. He tells her he's not done. She asks what that means. He says there are more of them. More of Ma's people. The ones the public doesn't know about. The ones who do the dirty work. Han goes quiet. She pulls up another file on her phone. This one isn't public. It's a list of names. She's been compiling it for months. Rankers who've worked security for Ma's guild. Rankers who've been seen at his private events. Rankers who've made problems disappear. She says she can give him the intel. Same deal as before. Exclusive access. He gets the targets, she gets the story. Do-yun nods. She sends him the first name. The file pings on his phone. He opens it. The screen brightness stabs his left eye. A-rank brawler. Close quarters specialist. Name: Park Sung-min. Known for breaking bones in unsanctioned underground matches. No official losses. 6 disqualifications for excessive force. Current status: Ma Dong-hyun's personal gym partner. Han says he's on the record as having called Do-yun a circus clown on a podcast 3 hours ago. Do-yun stares at the photo. The guy looks like a refrigerator with fists. He says he'll fight him. Han asks if he's serious. Do-yun stands up. His ribs scream. His left eye throbs. He doesn't care. He tells her to make the challenge public. She starts typing before he finishes the sentence. The story goes live at 11 that night. E-rank challenger calls out Ma Dong-hyun's inner circle. Park Sung-min next on the list. The internet loses its mind. The video of Jang Hyuk-jin's shoelaces hits 1 million views by midnight. By morning, it's 2 million. Somebody edits it with a voiceover. Somebody else makes a compilation of every reaction shot in the arena. The phrase, "teleport this," trends number 3 on social media. Do-yun is in a cheap motel room near the arena. He couldn't make it back to his apartment. Too exhausted. Too much pain. He lies on the bed with the lights off and a wet towel over his eyes. Headache is still there. Less sharp now. More like a bruise inside his skull. He's counting the ceiling tiles in the dark when his phone buzzes. It's Jung Ho-jin, the guildmaster. He asks if Do-yun is still alive. Do-yun says more or less. Jung laughs. He says the sponsorship offer is still on the table. Training facility access, medical staff, legal coverage against the review board, which is definitely going to investigate the Jang fight. Do-yun asks what the catch is. Jung says there's no catch. He just wants to be on the right side of this thing. He says Do-yun is building something, a narrative, a momentum, and he wants his guild's name attached when it peaks. Do-yun says he'll think about it. Jung says, don't think too long. Ma Dong-hyun's people are already moving. That gets Do-yun's attention. He sits up. The towel falls off his face. He asks what that means. Jung sends him a link. It's a video. Ma Dong-hyun, live, some talk show. The host is asking him about the E-rank upstart who's been calling him out. Ma laughs. It's a full, rich, warm laugh. The kind of laugh a wolf makes when dinner walks into the den. He leans back in his chair. He's huge, taller than everyone on set, shoulders like a concrete overpass. He's wearing a tailored suit and a smile that never reaches his eyes. He waves one hand at the camera like he's swatting a fly. He says Do-yun isn't a fighter. He's a party trickster, a magician who figured out one sleight of hand. He says the rankings don't lie. E is E for a reason. He says let the boy play his little games. Let him tie shoelaces and drop pants. It's entertaining. It's content. But it's not combat. The host asks if Ma would ever agree to fight him. Ma's smile doesn't flicker. He says there's no point. You don't step into the ring with a clown. You send security. The crowd laughs. The host laughs. Ma leans into the camera and says one more thing, directly to Do-yun. He says, enjoy the views while they last. 15 minutes of fame goes fast, and somebody edits the video to add a ticking clock sound. Do-yun watches the clip 3 times. On the third watch, the headache behind his eye flares harder. Not from the freeze, from rage. Pure, cold, clarifying rage. The same rage that froze time the first night. He grips the phone until his knuckles go white. Then he calls Han Ji-soo. She picks up on the first ring. He tells her he's done playing the ranking board game. She asks what that means. He says he wants a press conference. Not a challenge. Not a social media post. A press conference. Cameras. Reporters. The whole thing. She's silent for 3 seconds. Then she asks if he's sure. He says yes. She says she can arrange it. Give her 2 days. He says do it in 1. He hangs up. The ceiling tiles don't get any more interesting. He doesn't sleep. The next morning, the story is everywhere. Not just the sports sites, the news networks. E-rank trickster challenges S-rank tyrant's entire inner circle. The headline writers are having a field day. Somebody digs up Do-yun's registry photo. Somebody else finds old footage of Ma Dong-hyun at charity events, shaking hands with politicians. The contrast sells itself. By noon, Han Ji-soo confirms the press conference is set. Small venue, downtown Busan, 3 o'clock. She warns him that Ma's people will probably send somebody to disrupt it. She warns him that the media will ask questions he can't answer. She warns him that the review board is watching. He says he knows. He shows up at the venue wearing the same jacket he's had since the fish market. Cracked ribs still taped. Watch still on his wrist. The room is packed. Cameras everywhere. He steps up to the microphone. No script. No notes. Just him and the lights and the quiet hum of 100 phones recording. He says his name is Bae Do-yun. He says he's an E-rank. He says 3 weeks ago he was lying in an alley behind a fish market, bleeding out, while the #1 ranked hunter in the country walked past him like he was garbage. The room goes dead silent. He says he's not here to ask for a match. He's here to make a promise. He looks directly into the main camera, the one that's streaming live to every news outlet in the country. And he says it. 1 month. In 1 month, he will step into a ring with Ma Dong-hyun. And when the bell rings, he's going to make the #1 crawl. No caveats, no conditions, just the promise. The room erupts. Reporters shout questions, cameras flash. Somebody in the back yells that he's insane. Do-yun steps away from the mic. He walks out the side door. Han Ji-soo is waiting in the hallway. She's pale. She asks if he has any idea what he just did. He says yeah. He just made sure Ma can't say no. Not on live television. Not with the whole country watching. She stares at him. Then she laughs. The real kind this time, not the nervous kind. She says his 15 minutes just got extended. Do-yun doesn't smile. He's already thinking about the next name on the list. Park Sung-min. The bone breaker. The gym partner. The one who called him a circus clown. The headache behind his eye throbs once. A reminder. His body is the bottleneck. He's got 1 month to fix that. 1 month to train. 1 month to figure out how to push his limit past 3 freezes before the pain puts him on the floor. 1 month before he has to face the most powerful hunter in the country. He walks out into the Busan afternoon. Sun glints off the cracked glass of the broken watch. He doesn't look back. Jung Ho-jin sends a video the morning after the press conference. Not a text. Not a message. A full video presentation. Our boy is sitting on his mattress, ribs still wrapped. Phone in one hand and a cold convenience store coffee in the other. He plays the video. Jung Ho-jin is standing in a training facility so clean it practically glows. He congratulates Do-yun on the press conference, calls it the gutsiest thing he's seen in 5 years of guild management. Then he cuts to the point. He offers Do-yun a contract. Independent contractor, not a full guild member. Full access to the Phoenix Guild training compound. Gym, sparring rooms, recovery bay, the works.
No mandatory guild missions.
No uniform. No loyalty oath. In exchange, Do-yun wears the phoenix patch on his jacket during public matches. That's it.
Jung says he's not trying to own him.
He's investing in the story. He says if Do-young really plans to walk into a ring with Ma Dong-hyun in 1 month, he can't do it training in a rental apartment with a microwave clock. Do-yun watches the whole thing twice. On the third play, he calls Jung Ho-jin. He tells the guildmaster he accepts. Jung laughs. Doesn't sound surprised.
He sends an address and says the gate code is Do-yun's registration number.
The Phoenix Guild compound is a converted warehouse 3 blocks from the Busan docks. Jung Ho-jin meets Do-yun at the entrance.
The man is built like a refrigerator with a jawline.
Mid-40s, gray at the temples, hands that have clearly broken things.
He shakes Do-yun's hand and doesn't try to crush it.
That's the first green flag. He walks Do-yun through the facility,
Points out the weight room,
the sprint track, the sparring cages, the cold plunge. The place is quiet. Only a handful of fighters training.
no cameras.
No media circus. Jung stops in front of a man wrapping his hands on a bench. This is Hyo Jae-young, B-rank trainer, former military, 15 years of hand-to-hand combat instruction. Hyo looks up at Do-yun, scans him like a grocery receipt. He says Do-yun's stance is garbage. Jung grins and says that's exactly why he's assigning Hyo as Do-yun's personal trainer. Hyo stands up.
He's shorter than Do-yun but built like a steel cable.
He circles Do-yun once, asks him to throw a punch at the heavy bag. Do-yun throws a punch. It's bad. Wrist bent, hips locked, no rotation. Hyo stares at the bag like it's personally insulted him. He tells Do-yun they have a lot of work to do. The first day is brutal. Hyo runs Do-yun through basic footwork drills for 3 hours straight. Ladder steps, pivot turns, back pedal, and reset. Do-yun's cracked ribs scream at him, but he doesn't stop. Hyo notices the limp, asks what happened. Do-yun tells him 3 thugs and an alley. Hyo doesn't blink, just nods and says they'll work around it. He swaps the footwork drills for upper body mechanics. Jab, cross, hook, elbow. 6 inches from the bag, no contact, just form. 500 repetitions of each. By hour 5, Do-yun's shoulder feels like someone poured concrete into the socket.
Hyo tells him to hydrate and hit the cold plunge.
Then he says something that lands harder than any punch.
He says Do-yun is the most untrained fighter he's ever worked with.
But he's also the most focused. Most people come in wanting to look strong.
Do-yun wants to be strong.
There's a difference. Hyo says that difference is the only reason he's taking the job seriously.
Day 2 starts with sparring.
Hyo puts Do-yun in the cage with a C-rank rookie named Choi Min-suk. The kid is 19. Fast hands. Eager. The bell sounds. Choi charges. Do-yun doesn't freeze time. That's not the point of this drill.
Hyo wants to see what Do-yun can do without the party trick.
The answer is, not much. Choi lands 3 clean hits before Do-yun even gets his guard up. But Do-yun doesn't go down. He takes the hits, adjusts, and keeps moving. By round 2, he's reading Choi's rhythm. Dodge, block, reset. By round 3, he lands his first clean jab. Choi blinks. Didn't expect it.
Hyo calls the session.
Tells Do-yun he's a sponge. A beat-up, half-broken sponge, but a sponge. Every night, Do-yun returns to his apartment.
Muscles burning.
Ribs still bruised. He wraps fresh tape around his torso. Dry swallows 2 more painkillers. Han Ji-soo texts him.
Asks if the Phoenix Guild deal is legit.
He replies yes. She sends a thumbs-up emoji and a news link.
Headline reads,
Ma Dong-hyun's sponsor pulls out. Titan Energy Drink cuts ties. Do-yun reads the article twice. Titan Energy released a statement saying they do not endorse athletes who belittle challengers on national television. The timing is too perfect. Han must have fed the story. Do-yun texts her a single question. How many more of Ma's sponsors can she flip? She replies with a winking emoji and the words, at least 2. Day 5 of training. Do-yun's ribs are finally starting to heal.
Hyo ups the intensity.
He brings in a B-rank grappler named Yu Sang-ho. The drill is simple. Do-yun has to stay on his feet for 3 minutes. Yu takes him down in the first 15 seconds. Do-yun hits the mat. Ribs flare. He gets up. Yu takes him down again. And again. And again.
By the end of the 3 minutes,
Do-yun has hit the mat 17 times. But he's still standing when the bell rings. Hyo nods. Progress.
after the session,
Jung Ho-jin pulls Do-yun aside. He hands him a tablet. The screen shows a social media post. Ma Dong-hyun's official fan club, the so-called Dragon's Teeth, has posted a bounty. $50,000 to anyone who puts the clown in a hospital bed before the month is up. The post has 14,000 likes. Jung warns Do-yun that the parking lot outside this facility is not a safe zone. The streets aren't either. He offers Do-yun a room in the guild dormitory. Secure building, cameras, guard rotation. Do-yun considers it. Then he says no. If he hides, they win. If he walks through the city without a guard, it sends a message. Jung tells him that's either brave or suicidal. Do-yun says it's both. He leaves the facility at 9 o'clock that night. The parking lot is lit by 3 flickering sodium lamps. He's halfway to his car when he hears footsteps behind him. Not one set, several. He turns around. 6 of them, all wearing black jackets with the Dragon's Teeth emblem stitched on the sleeve. Looks like the fan club decided to collect their bounty early. The biggest one steps forward. Shaved head. Neck tattoo. A rank, judging by the way he carries his weight. He tells Do-yun the car can wait. Says there's a message from Ma Dong-hyun. Do-yun asks what the message is. The big guy cracks his knuckle. His exact words. Stay in your lane, clown. Classic. Truly creative dialogue from the #1's fan club. Do-yun's hand moves to his wrist. The cracked glass of the watch is cold against his thumb. He doesn't scream inside his skull this time. Doesn't need to. The high-pitched whine. The world goes gray. 10 seconds. He moves fast. The big guy's jacket zipper goes down. His belt comes off. His pants drop to his ankles. The second guy's shoelaces get tied together. Both shoes. Triple knot. The third guy's phone is in his hand. Was recording. Do-yun plucks it out of his frozen fingers and places it in the fourth guy's back pocket. The fifth guy is mid-sentence, mouth open. Do-yun takes a protein bar from his jacket, unwraps it, and balances it on his tongue. The sixth guy is the only woman in the group. She's reaching for something in her belt. Do-yun swaps her pepper spray with a pack of gum from her own pocket. Time resumes. The big guy's pants hit the ground first. He trips, goes down hard on one knee. The second guy takes a step forward and face plants. His shoes are anchored together like a bad magic trick. The third guy screams, "Where's my phone?" While the fourth guy pulls it out of his own pocket with pure confusion on his face. The fifth guy bites down on a protein bar he didn't put there and nearly choked. The woman sprays herself in the face with what she thinks is pepper spray. It's gum. She blinks mint-flavored tears. The big guy is still on the ground, pants around his ankles, screaming that Do-yun is a dead man. Our boy doesn't run. He walks up to the big guy, kneels down, looks him right in the eyes. He says if Ma Dong-hyun wants to send a message, he should deliver it himself. Then he stands up, pockets the pepper spray he somehow acquired, and walks to his car. He drives away while the Dragon's Teeth are still trying to untie shoelaces and find missing belts. The next morning, Han Ji-soo calls him before his alarm even goes off. She's laughing so hard she can barely speak. Somebody uploaded the parking lot footage to every social platform. The video is called Dragon's Teeth Get Extracted. It shows 6 A-rank thugs falling over themselves while an E-rank nobody walks calmly to his car. It already has 2 million views. She asks if he planned that. Do-yun says he just wanted to go home. She laughs again. Says the internet has officially declared him the King of Petty. He doesn't mind that title. Jung Ho-jin texts him a single line. Training's at noon. Don't be late. Our boy pulls himself out of bed, wraps his ribs, grabs his coffee. Dragon's Teeth incident broke something open. Public opinion was already shifting. Now it's a landslide. Every talk show is running the parking lot clip. Somebody edits it with cartoon sound effects. That version gets 5 million views. News outlets start running headlines that Ma Dong-hyun's fan club is a gang of hired thugs with matching jackets. The association issues a statement condemning the bounty. Ma Dong-hyun posts a video denying any involvement with the fan club's actions. Nobody believes him. And somewhere in a cheap apartment in Busan, Bae Do-yun wraps his hands and walks into the Phoenix Guild training compound. Heo Jae-young is waiting for him. So is a new sparring partner, an A-rank striker named Kim Soo-jin. She's fast, precise, no wasted movement. Heo says today they're working on counters. Do-yun asks if he can use his ability. Heo thinks about it, then nods. Once. He says it's not about winning the spar. It's about learning how the ability integrates with real footwork. The bell rings. Kim Soo-jin attacks. The bell rings and Kim Soo-jin attacks instantly. She's already inside Do-yun's guard before he blinks. Right cross. Left low kick, elbow follow-through. The woman doesn't waste a single motion. Our boy backpedals, arms up. His footwork still 3 weeks of training on top of a lifetime of nothing.
Hyo Jae-young shouts from the corner to stop retreating.
Do-yun plants his feet and uses the watch. The whine, the gray, the silence. Kim is frozen mid-combination, her fist 6 inches from his jaw. 10 seconds. He steps left, repositions, then lets time snap back.
Kim's punch hits air.
She's off balance for half a breath. That half breath is all he needs. He throws a jab, lands it, clean.
Hyo actually claps once.
Kim recovers fast because of course she does. She's A rank. She's been fighting since she was 16, and she adjusts.
Next exchange, she feints high,
Goes low, and sweeps his front leg. He hits the mat hard.
Hyo tells him that's what happens when he relies on the ability instead of his stance.
Do-yun gets up. They go again. 3 rounds.
He uses the freeze twice more.
Once to escape a corner trap, once to reposition behind her and tap her shoulder like a ghost.
By the third use, his head throbs.
A dull spike behind the left eye, but no nosebleed. Progress.
After the spar,
Kim Soo-jin shakes his hand and tells him he fights like a man who's never thrown a real punch in his life.
She says it without malice. Just observation.
Hyo agrees and says they'll fix that starting tomorrow. Do-yun checks his phone after training.
Han Ji-soo has sent him 14 messages.
The first one is a link. The parking lot video crossed 8 million views overnight.
Somebody in the comments called him the Ghost of Busan,
and the name stuck.
Fan edits are everywhere.
One set the footage to a horror movie soundtrack with Do-yun as the monster and the dragon's teeth as screaming camp counselors. It's the #1 trending video in the country.
Ma Dong-hyun's official fan page deleted their bounty post at 4 in the morning.
But screenshots don't die.
News outlets are running the headline.
#1 Hunter's fan club posts bounty on E-rank rookie. The association's official statement calls the
incident unacceptable and under investigation.
Han's second message says Titan Energy confirmed they pulled Ma's sponsorship.
Her third message says 2 more sponsors,
a sports drink brand and a luxury watch company, have gone silent on their renewal contracts. Our boy scrolls through the rest while icing his ribs in the locker room. Public sentiment is a wave now. The forums that called him a clown a week ago are full of posts calling Ma Dong-hyun a tyrant.
Somebody leaked a clip from 3 years ago.
Ma shoving a staff member at a press event. The comments are a feeding frenzy. Han's 12th message says a producer from the country's biggest morning talk show wants Do-yun as a guest. Her 13th says, Ma Dong-hyun's legal team issued a statement denying all connection to the dragon's teeth. Her 14th is a screenshot. Ma's statement reads, I do not condone the actions of overzealous supporters. I wish Bae Do-yun well in his journey to becoming a real hunter. Our boy reads that line twice. A real hunter. The condescension is so thick he could spread it on toast.
He texts Han back.
Accept the interview. She responds in under 30 seconds with a string of exclamation points and a time.
The next morning,
Do-yun walks into the television studio wearing his Phoenix Guild jacket. The host is a man named Park Jung-min. Slick hair, white teeth, a smile that's been calibrated in a laboratory.
He introduces Do-yun as
the E rank who defeated 2 A ranks without throwing a single punch. The audience applauds politely. Park asks the first question before Do-yun even settles into the chair. Why Ma Dong-hyun? Why not climb the ranks normally?
Why not prove himself through the system?
Do-yun doesn't blink. He tells the story. The alley behind Haeundae's fish market. 3 thugs.
Cracked ribs.
Blood in his mouth. Ma Dong-hyun walking past while a dying man begged for help.
He describes the look Ma gave him.
Not anger, not disgust, just boredom. Like swatting a fly wasn't worth the effort. The studio goes quiet.
Park asks if he has proof.
Do-yun says the alley had 14 security cameras. He tells the network to pull the footage. Producer in the control room is already on the phone. The interview runs 12 minutes. By the time Do-yun leaves the studio, the alley footage is trending. Grainy security video.
Bae Do-yun,
bleeding on concrete, reaching toward the #1 hunter in the country. Ma Dong-hyun's back, walking away. No pause, no glance, no hesitation. The internet explodes. All the parking lot edits, the cartoon sound effects, the horror soundtrack, the king of petty memes. They take on a new weight now.
This isn't just an underdog clowning bullies.
This is a man avenging himself.
The Ghost of Busan stops being a joke and becomes something else entirely.
Han Ji-soo calls him that afternoon and says his public approval rating among non-rankers
is at 73%.
She's never seen anything like it.
She also says Ma Dong-hyun's team is in damage control mode. They've canceled 3 public appearances in 2 days.
Our boy is in his apartment,
Rewrapping his ribs when Han sends another message.
She's tracked Ma's schedule through a source in his management company.
Tonight, Ma is having dinner at a private restaurant in Gangnam with several guildmasters and 2 association executives.
The restaurant is called Ha-jun.
Reservation under a shell company. Private room on the 3rd floor. Do-yun asks how she got this.
She says a good reporter doesn't reveal sources.
Then she sends the address. He arrives at Ha-jun at 8:15 that night. The restaurant is the kind of place where the menu doesn't have prices, and the waitstaff wear suits that cost more than Do-yun's monthly rent.
He's not on the list.
Doesn't need to be. He waits across the street, hood up, hands in his pockets. The February wind cuts through his jacket.
At 8:40,
a black sedan pulls up. Ma Dong-hyun steps out. He's taller in person, broader in the shoulders, his presence eating up the sidewalk.
2 assistants flank him.
No visible security, because why would the #1 hunter need a bodyguard?
He walks through the front door like he owns the building.
Do-yun counts to 30, then crosses the street. The maitre d' opens his mouth to stop him, and our boy just walks past. He doesn't run, doesn't hide.
The staff hesitates.
An E rank isn't worth the lawsuit if they tackle him, and he's not even armed. He takes the stairs 2 at a time. 3rd floor.
Private dining room at the end of the hall.
The door is heavy oak, slightly ajar. Voices filtering through. Do-yun pushes it open. The room is all dark wood and low amber lighting. A long table, maybe 12 chairs. 8 men in suits, guildmasters, association brass.
And at the head of the table, mid-laugh,
a glass of wine in his hand, Ma Dong-hyun. The laughter dies the instant they see him. One of the guildmasters, an older man with a gray beard, asks who the hell he is.
Ma Dong-hyun sets down his wine glass, and his expression doesn't change.
He tells Do-yun that this is a private dinner. Do-yun says he knows. Ma asks if he's here to beg for a match on his knees. Do-yun doesn't answer. He walks to the table, picks up Ma's wine glass, takes a sip,
sets it back down.
One of the association executives stands up, face red, demanding security. Ma Dong-hyun holds up a hand. He's curious now. He asks Do-yun if he thinks that little parlor trick of his can work here. 8 witnesses. No arena rules.
Just a room full of the most powerful men in the industry.
Do-yun says he doesn't need a trick. He says he just wanted to see the #1's face.
Ma asks if it's everything he imagined.
Do-yun says no. Says it's smaller. Then he turns and walks out. The silence behind him is absolute.
Ma doesn't follow.
Doesn't send anyone after him.
Because chasing an E rank through a restaurant would look weak.
And Ma Dong-hyun cannot afford to look weak tonight.
Do-yun is halfway down the stairs when he hears the shouting start.
The guildmasters demanding to know how a nobody got past the door.
The association executives questioning Ma's control over the situation.
Our boy walks out the front door and into the cold night air.
He makes it 3 blocks before his hands start shaking.
Adrenaline crash. He leans against a wall and breathes. He didn't freeze time.
Didn't need to.
Just walked in, insulted the most powerful hunter on the planet, and walked out.
Han Ji-soo texts him.
Sources say the dinner ended early. Ma looked furious. What did you do? He texts back. Nothing. She doesn't believe him.
Nobody would.
The next 3 days are a pressure cooker. The alley footage combined with the restaurant confrontation, which someone leaked.
Because of course someone leaked it.
Creates a narrative Do-yun couldn't have engineered if he tried. The underdog who was ignored by the king.
The king's men who tried to beat him into silence.
And now the underdog has walked into the king's private feast and called him small to his face.
The forums are a war zone.
Ma's supporters call Do-yun a stalker, a lunatic, a man with a death wish.
Everyone else calls him the bravest E rank in history.
3 more sponsors suspend their contracts with Ma Dong-hyun. The total is now 6.
Han Ji-soo runs the numbers.
If 2 more drop, Ma's income drops below the threshold required to maintain his S-rank training facilities.
The pressure is financial now, not just reputational.
On the 4th day, Ma Dong-hyun posts a video. No script, no prepared statement. Just him, in a training room. Sweat on his forehead, looking directly into the camera. He says he has been patient.
He says he has let the association handle a minor nuisance.
But the nuisance has become a pest. He says he will accept Bae Do-yun's challenge.
Not in some underground arena.
Not in a B-rank preliminary. The grand arena. 1 month. S rank versus E rank. He says Do-yun wanted the world to watch. Fine. The world will watch. He finishes by saying he hopes Do-yun has enjoyed his 15 minutes of fame, because they end the moment the bell rings. Video gets 12 million views in an hour. Han Ji-soo calls Do-yun immediately and says this is either the greatest thing that's ever happened or the worst. Do-yun is already wrapping his hands. Training starts in 20 minutes. He tells her it's exactly what he wants. The challenge goes live on the association's public board at 9:14 a.m. Do-yun sits in the Phoenix Guild's locker room, scrolling the notification on his cracked phone. His name is there in black and white. Bae Do-yun, E rank, challenger. The opponent field reads Ma Dong-hyun, S rank, number 1. The venue is the Grand Arena in Seoul, capacity 47,000. The date is exactly 27 days away. Han Ji-soo's article drops 12 minutes later with full breakdown of the terms. Ma's team demanded no time stop clause in the contract, and the association refused to add it. The board ruled that abilities are part of a ranker's toolkit and cannot be banned by an opponent. Ma's lawyers filed 3 separate appeals in the first hour. All 3 were rejected. The forums are a nuclear wasteland of arguments, death threats, and conspiracy theories about how an E rank got this far. A poll on the association's official site asks who will win, and 82% vote for Ma Dong-hyun. The remaining 18% don't vote for Do-yun either. They vote for see results. Nobody thinks our boy has a chance. Nobody except the people in the Phoenix Guild training room at 6 a.m. the next morning. Jung Ho-jin calls a meeting with Do-yun, Hyo Jae-young, and 3 of the guild's top analysts. The conference room smells like burnt coffee and old sweat. A whiteboard covers one entire wall, covered in red marker, Ma's fight history, every recorded match, every pattern they've found. Jung points at the board and says the clock is ticking. 27 days to train an E-rank body to survive an S-rank onslaught for long enough to use the ability. Hyo Jae-young cracks his knuckles and says it's not impossible. He says they just need to make Do-yun hard to kill. Not strong. Not fast, just durable enough to stay conscious through the first 30 seconds. Because after 30 seconds, the cooldown resets and Do-yun can freeze again. The math is simple. Survive the gaps. Control the fight during the freezes. Do-yun asks what happens if Ma lands a hit before the first freeze. Hyo's answer is blunt. Don't get hit. Training resumes an hour later with a new focus on defensive footwork and head movement. Hyo tapes a target to Do-yun's chest and tells him to dodge tennis balls fired from a machine at 40 miles an hour. The first 3 balls hit him square in the ribs. Cracked ribs. Purple and yellow and black bruising under the tape. Do-yun drops to one knee, gasping, and Hyo doesn't stop the machine. He tells our boy that Ma Dong-hyun hits harder than a tennis ball. Get up. Do-yun gets up. At the end of the session, he's dodging 1 in 3, and his shirt is soaked through with sweat and blood from where the tape peeled skin. 2 days later, the association announces a press conference for both fighters to sign the match contract in public. The venue is a hotel ballroom in central Seoul, with cameras from every major network. Do-yun walks in wearing his Phoenix Guild jacket. Han Ji-soo 3 steps behind him with her press badge on. Ma Dong-hyun is already there, seated at a long table with his legal team and 3 guild representatives. The number 1 looks bored. He doesn't stand when Do-yun enters. Doesn't look at him. Just keeps scrolling his phone, while an association official reads the terms aloud. The contract is standard. No weapons, no outside interference. Ring-out rule disqualifies after 10 seconds. Ma signs first. 1 stroke of the pen. Doesn't even read it. Do-yun steps up to the table, and the cameras zoom in on his hand as he picks up the pen. He pauses. The room holds its breath. Do-yun turns to the association official and asks what happens if one fighter refuses to show up on match day. The official blinks and says that would be a forfeit. The challenger automatically defaults, and the opponent wins by walkover. Do-yun says that it's not what he means. He asks what happens if the challenged fighter, the big name, the number 1, doesn't show up. Ma's head snaps up. The official says the association can't imagine a scenario where Ma Dong-hyun would forfeit. Do-yun says he can. He says the sponsors are dropping. The income is drying up. The reputation is bleeding out. He asks what happens if Ma Dong-hyun runs out of money before the match date and can't afford his own training. Ma's lawyer stands up to object, and the official waves him down. The official says that if either fighter fails to appear, the association will launch an investigation and possible sanctions. Do-yun nods, signs the contract, slides it across the table to Ma Dong-hyun. Then he leans in close enough that only Ma can hear, and tells him something nobody else in the room catches. Han Ji-soo asks him later what he said, and Do-yun just shrugs. 3 days after the press conference, 2 A-rank thugs ambush him outside the Phoenix Guild compound. It's midnight, and Do-yun is walking to the bus stop with his gym bag over one shoulder. First one comes from behind a parked van. A big guy with a shaved head and knuckles, scarred like he's punched concrete for a living. The second one drops from a fire escape, landing in front of Do-yun and cutting off the exit. No dragon's teeth patches this time. No social media posts. Just 2 professionals who know exactly what they're doing. The bald one tells Do-yun that someone wants him to take a long vacation. A medical vacation, he clarifies. He cracks his knuckles and the scarred fists catch the streetlight. Do-yun drops his gym bag and raises both hands like he's surrendering. The second thug laughs and says the ghost of Busan is just a scared little kid after all. Big mistake. The high-pitched whine fills Do-yun's ears, and the world goes gray. 10 seconds. The bald thug is mid-step, mouth open, frozen in the act of swinging a right hook at Do-yun's temple. Do-yun steps around him, calm, measured. He's done this enough times now that the gray silence feels almost comfortable. He unzips his gym bag and pulls out a roll of duct tape, the thick kind, industrial grade, rated for 200 pounds of tension. He wraps the bald thug's wrists together behind his back, twice around, tight enough that the circulation cuts off. Then he tapes the man's ankles together and loops another strip from the ankles to a parking meter on the curb. 6 seconds left. The second thug is still frozen in his landing crouch from the fire escape, hands up in a fighting stance. Do-yun walks over and empties the man's pockets. Wallet, phone, car keys, a switchblade, and a roll of cash bound with a rubber band. He pockets the cash and the knife and drops the rest into a storm drain. 3 seconds. He pulls out a permanent marker from his bag and writes on the thug's forehead in large black letters, "Called the police." Then he steps back to his original position, raises his hands in the same surrender pose, and lets go. Time slams back into motion, and the bald thug swings his right hook at empty air. His momentum carries him forward, and his taped ankles catch on the parking meter, and he goes down hard, face first into the concrete. The second thug stares at his empty pockets and the wet ink on his forehead. He touches the letters with his fingertips and they come away black. Do-yun is already on the phone, speaking calmly to the dispatcher, giving the address of the Phoenix Guild parking lot. He describes the 2 men, their license plate numbers, the switchblade in his pocket that he'll hand over when officers arrive. The bald thug is screaming into the pavement, thrashing against the duct tape. The parking meter groans but holds. The second thug tries to run, and Do-yun freezes time again. Gray silence. 10 seconds. Do-yun tucks the thug's shoelaces into his own socks and knots them around a bicycle rack bolted to the sidewalk. When time resumes, the thug takes 3 steps and his feet yank out from under him. He lands on his tailbone with a crack that echoes off the building walls. Neither of them gets up before the police arrive 3 minutes later. The officers find duct tape, 2 A-rankers with bruises and humiliation written all over them, and an E-rank in a Phoenix Guild jacket sitting on the curb eating a protein bar. The bald thug is still screaming that Do-yun broke his nose. The second thug is silent, staring at the sky, completely checked out of reality. One officer asks Do-yun if he wants to press charges. Do-yun says yes. Assault, attempted battery, conspiracy to commit harm with intent. He hands over the switchblade and says it belongs to the one with the tattoo on his neck. The officer asks how he subdued 2 A-rankers. Our boy says he got lucky. The gym sessions grow harder after the ambush because Hyo Jae-young sees the police report and doubles the intensity. He says Ma is getting desperate, and desperate people do stupid things, and Do-yun needs to be ready for anything. 3 weeks until the match. Hyo has Do-yun sparring with B-rank grappler Yu Sang-ho every morning, learning to break free from holds and escape submissions. Afternoons are defensive drills with Kim Soo-jin, the speed type who almost put him down on day 1. Evenings are endurance training, the tennis ball machine, jumping rope with weighted ankles, shadowboxing in front of a mirror until his arms shake. The pain behind his left eye is constant now, a low-grade throb that never quite fades. Hyo notices Do-yun squinting during drills and asks if he's been overusing the ability. Do-yun says no, and Hyo doesn't believe him. Hyo pulls him aside after a session and says the ability is a weapon, not a crutch. A weapon you sharpen, not one you swing until it breaks. Do-yun says he knows. He doesn't stop. Late one night, alone in the gym after everyone else has left, Do-yun experiments with holding the time freeze longer. He's not supposed to. Hyo's voice is in his head. 3 freezes, then stop. That's the rule. But the rule is based on what his body can handle now, not what it can handle in 3 weeks. He stands in the center of the sparring ring, staring at the cracked watch on his wrist. High-pitched whine. Gray silence. The clock on the wall stops at 11:47 p.m. 10 seconds pass, and Do-yun doesn't let go. He pushes past the 10-second mark, and the watch pulses cold against his skin. 11 seconds. 12. 13 seconds, the pain behind his left eye sharpens from a dull throb to a hot spike. At 14 seconds, his vision blurs at the edges and his knees buckle. He releases the freeze and drops to the mat, gasping, one hand pressed against his eye. The clock on the wall jumps to 11:48 p.m., and his nose is bleeding. A thin trickle running down to his lip and dripping onto the blue mat. He stays on his knees for a long minute, breathing through the pain. 14 seconds. Not much more than 10. But more. The migraine that follows is brutal, a pulsing, skull-splitting pressure that doesn't ease for 2 full hours. He lies on the locker room floor with a wet towel over his eyes and waits for the painkillers to work. The box of painkillers is half empty now, and the match is still 3 weeks away. Hayo finds him there at 1 a.m. and doesn't say a word, just hands him a bottle of water and a fresh towel, and sits against the lockers with him in the dark. After a while, Hayo says that pushing limits is how you grow. Breaking limits is how you break yourself. He asks Do-yun which one he wants. Do-yun pulls the towel off his face. His left eye is bloodshot, a web of red veins spreading from the corner. He says he wants to win. Hayo nods like that was always going to be the answer. 16 days until the grand arena, and the countdown has begun in every corner of the internet. Han Ji-soo doesn't knock. She just walks into the gym at 6 a.m. with a tablet clutched against her chest and dark circles under her eyes. The look on her face says she hasn't slept. Our boy is already on the mat, rewrapping his hands, the bloodshot left eye still looking like a roadmap of burst veins. Hyo Jae-young sees her coming and just steps aside. He knows that face. Han drops the tablet onto the bench next to Do-yun and says she found something. Something that changes everything. The screen shows a medical file from 7 years ago. St. Mary's Hospital, Department of Orthopedic Surgery. Patient name, Ma Dong-hyun. Do-yun stares at the name for a long moment and asks where she got it. Han says a source in the hospital records department owed her a favor from an old investigation. The favor is now spent, and the source is terrified of retaliation. But the file is real. She pulls up the surgical notes and Do-yun reads them slowly. Ma Dong-hyun, age 19, admitted with acute trauma to the right shoulder. Complete tear of the rotator cuff. Dislocated humeral head. Nerve damage along the suprascapular nerve pathway. 3 surgeries over the course of 18 months. The final surgical report lists 4 titanium anchors holding the labrum in place. Do-yun reads that line twice. Titanium anchors. Not flesh, not tendon. Metal screws drilled into bone. Han swipes to the next page and there it is. The post-operative recommendation. Avoid high-impact overhead movements indefinitely. No heavy lifting above shoulder height. No explosive rotational force. No competitive combat. Ma Dong-hyun was medically advised to never fight again. Do-yun looks up from the tablet and asks how Ma got cleared for ranking matches. Han says the association's medical board signed off on his return 4 years after the surgeries. She pulls up a second file. The clearance exam was performed by a doctor who is now on the payroll of a pharmaceutical subsidiary owned by Ma's largest corporate sponsor. Conflict of interest doesn't even begin to cover it. Hyo leans over Do-yun's shoulder and lets out a low whistle. He says that shoulder is a grenade with the pin half pulled. One bad hit and the whole thing comes apart. Do-yun keeps scrolling and finds the physical therapy logs. 247 sessions over 6 years. Daily pain management exercises. Cortisone injections every 3 months like clockwork. The last injection was 11 days ago. Our boy stands up from the bench and starts pacing. His left eye throbs with every step, but he doesn't slow down. He asks Han what happens if Ma takes a direct strike to that shoulder. Han says the orthopedist she consulted estimated a 60% chance of full structural failure. The anchors rip out. The labrum tears again. The nerve damage flares, and the arm goes dead. Ma Dong-hyun would be fighting one-armed. Hayo crosses his arms and says that's a weakness you can drive a truck through. Do-yun stops pacing. He looks at the tablet, at the surgical diagrams, at the list of medications Ma is still taking. The great S-rank number 1 is held together with screws and injections and lies. And nobody knows. Ma has hidden this for 7 years, fought 32 ranking matches, crushed every opponent with overwhelming power, never let anyone get close enough to target the joint. Han says that's the pattern. Every single match, Ma ends it in under 90 seconds. Blitz attacks, brute force, Never a prolonged exchange. Never a grappling situation. Never an opponent who could test his endurance. She pulls up the fight footage and shows the data.
Ma Dong-hyun has never thrown more than 8 punches in a single match.
He doesn't have to. He just overwhelms them before the shoulder can become a factor. Do-yun sits back down and stares at the ceiling. The fluorescent lights buzz above him. He says that's why Ma ignored him in the alley. Not just arrogance, fear. A desperate man protecting a secret that would end him. Hyo nods and says, desperate people make mistakes. Desperate people overcommit. Desperate people leave openings. And our boy has the one ability that can exploit every single opening Ma gives him. The question is whether Do-yun can survive long enough to land the hits. Han pulls up a blank document on her tablet and starts typing. She says they need a strategy. Not a training regimen, not conditioning. A surgical plan to destroy that shoulder. Hyo grabs a marker and walks to the whiteboard on the gym wall. He draws a rough outline of a human torso and circles the right shoulder in red. Then he draws a stick figure labeled Do-yun and another labeled Ma Dong-hyun. The size difference is comical. Hyo says the plan has 3 phases, and the first phase is the hardest. Survive. Do-yun can't target the shoulder if he's unconscious in the first 10 seconds. He asks what phase 2 is. Hyo draws arrows from the stick figure Do-yun to the red circle. Precision strikes during the time freeze. Not wild swings. Not desperate haymakers. Every single freeze has to end with a clean hit to the joint. Do-yun asks how many hits it takes to break the anchors. Han pulls the orthopedist's estimate from her notes. 3 to 4 direct impacts with enough force. Less if the angle catches the surgical scar tissue. The scar is a seam. Hit the seam and the whole thing splits open. Hyo draws a third phase on the board. Once the shoulder fails, Ma switches to his left arm. Slower, weaker, no training. Do-yun picks him apart. Our boy leans forward and studies the whiteboard. The plan is simple and brutal, and entirely dependent on him surviving the first 60 seconds. He asks Hyo how he trains for that. Hyo erases the board and writes a single word in large letters. Evasion. The next 2 weeks of training are nothing like what came before. Hyo scraps the defensive drills and the tennis ball machine. He brings in Kim Soo-jin and tells her to go full speed. Every morning, Do-yun stands in the center of the ring and Soo-jin tries to hit him. She's an A-rank speed type who almost put him down on day 1. Now she's not holding back. The first session lasts 45 seconds. Soo-jin lands 11 strikes before Do-yun even registers the movement. His ribs, still crack from the tennis balls, scream with every impact. Hyo watches from the sideline and doesn't stop the drill. After the session, Hyo pulls Do-yun aside and tells him to stop tracking her movement with his eyes. He says the human eye can't follow an A-rank speed burst. Don't watch her. Watch her hips. Watch her shoulders. The body telegraphs the strike before the fist moves. Do-yun spends the afternoon studying Soo-jin's form. The way her left hip dips before a right cross. The way her shoulder blade tightens before a jab. The half-beat pause before she explodes forward. By day 3 of evasion training, Do-yun is dodging 1 in 5 strikes. His left eye throbs constantly. The painkillers are gone. He buys more from the convenience store near the compound and doesn't tell Hyo. Han Ji-soo shows up on day 5 with a new tablet. She's been tracking Ma Dong-hyun's training regimen through a source inside his camp. Ma is exclusively practicing power strikes. He's planning to end the match in 30 seconds. Do-yun asks if Ma knows about his ability. Han says Ma's analysts have reviewed every second of the Jang-hyuk-jin fight. They've identified the shoelace trick as a time-based manipulation. They don't know the exact mechanism. They don't know the duration. But they've advised Ma to blitz before Do-yun can activate it. Do-yun looks at the data and smiles for the first time in days. Ma is preparing for a 10-second window. Ma doesn't know about the 14 seconds. Han raises an eyebrow and asks what 14 seconds means. Hyo sighs from across the gym and says the idiot pushed past his limit. Han stares at Do-yun, at his bloodshot eye, at the way he squints against the overhead lights. He says he's going to kill himself before the match even starts. Do-yun says he's going to win. The evasion drills intensify. Hyo adds a second attacker. Yu Sang-ho, the B-rank grappler, joins Soo-jin in the ring. 2 against 1. Speed on the outside, grappling on the inside. Do-yun has to track 2 sets of hips, 2 sets of shoulders, 2 threats moving at different speeds. The first day of 2-on-1 training ends with Do-yun on the mat, gasping, a fresh bruise blooming across his jaw. Hyo kneels beside him and asks what he learned. Do-yun says he can't dodge both of them at the same time. Heo nods and says that's the point. Against Ma Dong-hyun, Do-yun won't dodge everything. He'll get hit. Probably hard. Probably in the first 10 seconds. The goal isn't to avoid damage. The goal is to survive it. Heo changes the training again on day 9. Do-yun stands with his back against the wall. Soo-jin and Sang-ho attack from both sides. No ring. No escape. Just Do-yun, his guard, and the time freeze. He activates it 3 times in the first 2 minutes. Soo-jin's fist freezes an inch from his temple. Sang-ho's arms are locked mid-grab around his waist. Do-yun steps out of both attacks and positions himself behind Soo-jin. Time resumes and she stumbles forward into the wall. Sang-ho blinks and Do-yun is already gone. Heo calls the session at the 5-minute mark. Do-yun is still standing, bruised, gasping. The pain behind his eye is a hot spike driving into his skull. But he's still standing. Heo says the survival phase is working. Now they need to train the kill shot. He brings in a dummy with a reinforced shoulder joint. Pads wrapped around the right side. A red circle painted over the rotator cuff. Do-yun trains 1 sequence and 1 sequence only. Freeze time. Step inside Ma's guard. Drive an elbow into the surgical scar. He does it 100 times on day 11. 200 times on day 12. His elbow is raw and bruised, and he wraps it in tape between sessions. By day 14, the sequence is muscle memory. Freeze, step, elbow. He can execute it in under 2 seconds from activation. Heo times him with a stopwatch and says it's fast enough. Not perfect, but fast enough. Han Ji-soo arrives on day 15 with the final piece of intelligence. Ma Dong-hyun canceled his last cortisone injection. The shoulder is currently unmedicated. He's fighting with full sensation in the joint, which means he'll feel every single impact. Do-yun asks why Ma would cancel the injection. Han says, arrogance. Ma doesn't think Do-yun can touch him. He doesn't think the shoulder matters. He's preparing to end the match in 30 seconds and walk out without a scratch. Our boy wraps his hands slowly and methodically. Tape pulls tight across his knuckles. He says Ma is making the same mistake every arrogant ranker makes. He's underestimating the E rank with a broken watch. 3 days until the Grand Arena, and the internet is a war zone. Han's latest article drops at midnight. The headline reads, "What is Ma Dong-hyun hiding?" The article doesn't reveal the medical records. Not yet, but it plants the question. It cites anonymous sources. It mentions a physical vulnerability. The forums explode within hours. 82% still predict Ma wins in under a minute. But the comments are different now. People are asking questions. People are noticing the way Ma always ends fights quickly. The way he never throws more than a handful of punches. Han's article has planted the seed, and the seed is growing. Do-yun lies awake in the Phoenix Guild dormitory, staring at the ceiling. The watch is cold against his wrist. The pain behind his left eye is a steady pulse. He closes his eyes and visualizes the sequence. Freeze. Step. Elbow. 3 hits, maybe 4. And the great Ma Dong-hyun comes apart like a broken toy. 2 days until the Grand Arena. Heo Jae-young pulls Do-yun aside after the final training session and hands him a small box. Inside is a mouthguard, custom-fitted. Phoenix Guild emblem stamped on the front. Heo says the old one was garbage, and a cracked jaw is a stupid way to lose. Do-yun takes the mouthguard and nods. He doesn't say thank you. Heo doesn't need him to. The final press conference before the match is held at the Grand Arena itself. 47,000 empty seats rise around them. Do-yun stands at one podium, Ma Dong-hyun at the other. The reporters fire questions back and forth. Ma is all confidence, all sneers. He says the match will be over in 30 seconds. He says the E-rank trickster has nowhere to run. Do-yun leans into the microphone and says one sentence. He says Ma's right shoulder looks stiff. The room goes quiet. Ma's face doesn't change, but his right hand twitches. Just once. Just a flicker of the fingers. Han Ji-soo sees it from the press gallery and writes down every microsecond of it. The day of the match arrives. Grand Arena. Capacity 47,000. Every seat filled. The lights are blinding. The crowd roars as Ma Dong-hyun enters the ring first. S rank. Number 1. Undefeated. Do-yun walks out second, and the sound is completely different. Mixed boos and cheers. A chant of "Ghost of Busan" rises from a section in the upper deck. Non-rankers holding signs with his silhouette. Do-yun steps into the ring and faces Ma Dong-hyun across 20 feet of canvas. The referee goes over the rules. Standard match. No weapons. No outside interference. Fight until unable to continue. The bell sounds, and Ma Dong-hyun explodes forward exactly as predicted. 30-second blitz. Full power. No hesitation. The first punch is a right cross aimed at Do-yun's head. Do-yun watches Ma's shoulder blade tighten, and he's already moving. He ducks under the cross, and the fist passes through empty air. Ma's momentum carries him forward, and Do-yun activates the time freeze. High-pitched whine. The roar of 47,000 people vanishes. Do-yun steps inside Ma's frozen guard and drives his elbow into the right shoulder. Aimed at the seam. Aimed at the surgical scar. Time resumes, and Ma Dong-hyun's right arm drops a quarter inch. It's the first clean hit anyone has landed on him in 7 years. The crowd doesn't understand what just happened, but Ma does. His eyes widen for a fraction of a second. He knows. Ma adjusts his stance and comes again. Left jab. Right uppercut. Left hook. 3 strikes in under 2 seconds. Do-yun takes the jab on his forearm, and the impact rattles his bones. The uppercut misses by a hair. The hook catches him in the ribs, and the crack is audible. Same ribs that were taped up. Same ribs that haven't finished healing. Pain rips through his side, but Do-yun doesn't stop moving. He activates the freeze again. Gray silence. 10 seconds. He circles around to Ma's right side and slams the same elbow into the same scar. This time, the impact is harder. This time, something shifts under the skin. Time resumes and Ma Dong-hyun screams. It's not a shout of rage. It's pain. Real, genuine, can't hide it pain. His right arm dangles at his side. The shoulder joint is failing. The titanium anchors are grinding against torn tissue. But Ma isn't done. He switches to his left arm, and the speed is still terrifying. A left cross catches Do-yun across the jaw, and the world spins. Do-yun stumbles back against the ropes. The mouthguard is still in place. His legs hold. The pain behind his left eye is a supernova now. But Ma is slower on his left side. Slower and angrier, and swinging wild. Do-yun activates the time freeze a third time, and the whine is piercing. His vision blurs at the edges. 14 seconds. 11 seconds. At 13 seconds, the nosebleed starts. A thin trickle running down to his lip. But he has time. So much time. He steps directly behind Ma Dong-hyun and positions himself for the third strike. Same elbow, same scar. Maximum force. Time resumes and the elbow lands like a hammer on a fault line. Ma's right shoulder gives out completely. The arm drops limp and useless, and Ma stumbles forward into the rope. The crowd is on its feet, screaming. 47,000 people watching the #1 ranker clutch his ruined shoulder. Do-yun backs away, gasping, blood dripping from his nose onto the canvas. His ribs are screaming. His left eye is a red disaster. The referee steps forward, but Ma shoves him aside with his good arm. He's still standing, barely. Do-yun looks at Ma, at the dead arm hanging at his side, at the fear finally visible behind the arrogance. And he says 4 words. 4 words the reporters can't hear, but Ma's eyes hear perfectly. The bell hasn't rung. The fight isn't over, and Ma Dong-hyun has nowhere left to hide. The crowd is still screaming. Ma Dong-hyun is tangled in the ropes with one dead arm. Do-yun backs away slowly, and his left eye is a mess of red. Blood drips from his nose onto the canvas in steady drops. The referee hovers near Ma, checking if the fight should stop. Ma shoves him away with his good arm, and his face is pure rage. He's never been humiliated like this before. Not in 7 years of professional fighting. Not ever. He pushes off the ropes, and his right arm swings useless at his side. The shoulder is gone. 4 titanium anchors grinding against shredded tissue. But Ma Dong-hyun isn't #1 for nothing. Even with one arm, he's still an S-rank monster. His left hand comes up, and the aura around him shifts. The air pressure in the arena changes. 47,000 people feel it in their chests. A low hum builds, and the lights flicker. Do-yun's good eye widens. He knows what this is. Every fighter in the top 10 has a signature ability beyond basic stats. Ma Dong-hyun's is called Shockwave Pulse. Raw kinetic energy released from his core in a radial blast. No precision required. No aim. Just destruction in every direction. Ma's been saving it because it drains him completely. But he's desperate now. Hum becomes a roar, and Ma's body glows white. Do-yun has maybe 2 seconds. He tries to activate the time freeze, but the whine doesn't come. The 30-second cooldown isn't finished. He's still 7 seconds short. The shockwave detonates, and the world turns into a wall of force. It hits Do-yun square in the chest and lifts him off his feet completely. His cracked ribs scream as the impact compresses his torso. The mouthguard stays in, but he tastes copper. He's airborne for what feels like forever. The ring posts blur past him. The ropes rush by underneath. He clears the apron and keeps going. The concrete floor of the arena hits him like a freight train. He lands on his back, and the impact drives every ounce of air from his lungs. His head bounces once. The watch stays cold against his wrist. For a long moment, he just stares at the ceiling lights. They're so bright, so impossibly bright. His body isn't responding. The crowd noise comes back in waves, muffled and distant. The referee starts the 10 count. Do-yun rolls onto his side and pain detonates through his ribcage. Something's definitely broken worse than before. Plants one palm on the concrete and pushes. His arm shakes, but it holds. He gets one knee under him and the world tilts dangerously. The blood from his nose has painted a small red smear on the floor. He's on his feet, swaying, barely standing, but he's up. The referee stops the count and waves him back toward the ring. Dong-hyun is still recovering in the corner. The shockwave pulse took everything out of him. His good arm is braced on the top rope and he's gasping. His right arm dangles like dead weight. Do-yun limps toward the apron and every step is agony. The crowd quiets down and watches him climb back through the ropes. He's slower than before, much slower. But he's back in the ring and the fight isn't over. The referee checks his eyes and asks if he can continue. Do-yun nods once. The 30-second cooldown finishes. He feels the watch pulse cold against his skin. It's ready. Ma pushes off the ropes and raises his left fist. He's slower now too. Slower and angrier and throwing everything he has left into one last barrage. A left hook comes for Do-yun's head and he ducks under it. The wind from the punch ruffles his hair. A second hook follows and he sidesteps. His footwork is sloppy, but Ma's aim is worse. The third punch is a straight left and it clips Do-yun's shoulder. The impact spins him halfway around, but his hand is already moving toward the watch. The high-pitched whine cuts through the arena noise. 47,000 people freeze in place. Dong-hyun freezes mid-punch with his left arm extended and his face twisted in fury. Do-yun takes one shaky breath. The pain behind his left eye is catastrophic now. The nosebleed is a steady stream running over his lip and down his chin. 14 seconds. He doesn't have the luxury of pacing himself anymore. This is the final burst. This is everything he has left. He steps around Ma's frozen form and gets behind him. The target is the same as before. The surgical scar on the right shoulder. But this time he's not aiming for the scar with his elbow. He grabs the back of Ma's belt with both hands. 12 seconds. He plants his feet and yanks downward with everything his broken body can give. Do-yun doesn't smile. He doesn't have the energy. The referee comes over and raises Do-yun's hand, but Do-yun barely feels it. His arm is numb. His ribs are a symphony of pain. His left eye is so bloodshot, it looks like a horror movie prop. But his hand is raised. The announcer finally breaks through the static in his ears. Winner by technical knockout, Bae Do-yun, E rank. The arena explodes. Half the crowd is cheering, and half is stunned into silence. The non-rankers in the upper deck are hugging each other. Their signs wave frantically. The ghost of Busan did it. Medical teams rush into the ring and swarm Dong-hyun. They cut his pants off with scissors to free his legs. They immobilize his shoulder with a vacuum splint. Ma's face is blank. Not angry, not sad, just empty. He's looking at the ceiling lights and his mouth is slightly open. Do-yun pushes away from the referee and limps toward the ropes. He doesn't want to stay in the ring. He doesn't want the cameras. He just wants to sit down somewhere quiet. He steps through the ropes and his legs buckle on the apron. A trainer from the Phoenix Guild catches him before he falls. It's Hyo Jae-young, the man who said his stance was garbage. Hyo doesn't say anything. He just puts Do-yun's arm over his shoulder and helps him down the steps. The hallway under the arena is cold and quiet compared to the chaos above. Hyo guides him toward the prep room, and Do-yun's feet drag on the concrete. Han Ji-soo is waiting outside the door. Her tablet is in her hands, and her eyes are wide. She says the footage is already viral. She says the shot of Ma face down in his boxers has 3 million views in 6 minutes. She says 6 sponsors have dropped him since the shoulder gave out. She says the Hunter Association is calling an emergency review. Do-yun nods, and the motion makes his head spin. Hyo pushes open the prep room door and helps Do-yun onto the bench. Do-yun leans back against the cold concrete wall and closes his eyes. The watch is still on his wrist. It's warm now, warm and pulsing like a heartbeat. He doesn't know what that means. He doesn't have the strength to wonder. Han kneels in front of him and asks if he needs a hospital. Do-yun opens his good eye and looks at her. He says the match isn't over. Han frowns and says the referee called it. Do-yun shakes his head slowly. He says Ma won't accept this. He says a man like that doesn't just fade away. He says the real fight hasn't started yet. Han's tablet buzzes with a new notification. He looks down at it and her face goes pale. She turns the screen toward Do-yun. It's a post from Ma Dong-hyun's personal account. Posted 30 seconds ago. 3 words. This isn't over. Do-yun stares at the screen and the warm pulse of the watch beats steady against his skin. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The next round is already coming. The IV drip beeps steady in the dark. Do-yun's left eye is swollen shut and taped over with gauze. 2 cracked ribs are wrapped tight. A third one is just bruised. And his nose has been reset by an intern who apologized 3 times. Private room on the 4th floor of Busan National University Hospital is supposed to be secure. A Hunter Association guard is posted outside the door. Do-yun can hear the guy scrolling TikTok through the wall. He's been admitted for 3 hours, and the painkillers are finally doing their job. His watch sits on the bedside table, still warm, still pulsing faintly against the plastic surface. Han Ji-soo left 20 minutes ago to file her story and charge her tablet. The room is quiet except for the IV pump and the distant hum of the air conditioner. Then the window shatters. Do-yun's good eye snaps open. A figure crashes through the glass and lands in a crouch on the linoleum floor. It's Ma Dong-hyun. His right arm is in a sling, and his shoulder is a mess of bruising that runs up his neck like spilled ink. His face is something else entirely, not arrogant, not smug, just pure, undistilled rage. He stands up slow, and the guard outside doesn't react because the guard is already unconscious. Ma must have gone through the stairwell window first and taken him out before the glass even hit the floor. Do-yun reaches for the watch on the bedside table. Ma sees the movement and kicks the table over. The watch clatters across the floor and slides under the bed. Our boy is pinned to the mattress with 1 working eye and 3 busted ribs, and the #1 ranker in the country standing over him. Ma says he's going to kill him. Not in the arena. Not with cameras. Right here, right now. He says Do-yun took everything from him. The sponsors, the title, the reputation. Ma reaches down with his good left hand and grabs Do-yun by the throat. The grip is still S-rank strong, even with 1 arm in a sling. Do-yun can't breathe. His fingers scrabble at Ma's wrist, and his vision is already going gray at the edges. Then the gray stops being just his vision. The high-pitched whine fills his ears. The world freezes. Ma's hand is still around his throat, but the pressure isn't increasing. Do-yun didn't touch the watch. He didn't reach for it. The watch activated on its own. It's still under the bed, glowing now, and he can feel the pulse of it in his chest like a second heartbeat. He doesn't have time to figure out the mechanics. He has 14 seconds. He pries Ma's frozen fingers off his throat one by one. The grip is like iron, even in stasis. By the time he's free, he's burned 4 seconds, 10 left. He rolls off the bed and his ribs scream, but the pain is distant, muffled by adrenaline and whatever the watch is doing to his nervous system. He grabs his phone from the nightstand, opens the camera, hits record, props it on the overturned table with the lens pointed at Ma. 8 seconds. He pulls the IV line out of his arm and wraps the tape around his knuckles because there's nothing else to use as a weapon. 5 seconds. He positions himself between Ma and the window. 3 seconds. He takes a breath, and the world slams back into motion. Ma's hand closes on empty air. He stares at his own fist like it betrayed him. Then he turns and sees Do-yun standing by the window with blood dripping from his arm where the IV came out. Ma asks how he did that. Do-yun doesn't answer. He just points at the phone propped on the table. The red recording light is blinking. Ma looks at the phone, then at the shattered window, then at the unconscious guard in the hallway. Do-yun says the footage is already backing up to the cloud. He says Han Ji-soo has access. He says the whole world is about to watch the former #1 break into a hospital and attack a patient. Ma lunges. Do-yun doesn't try to dodge. He lets Ma grab him by the hospital gown and slam him against the wall. The impact sends a crack through his already busted ribs, and he tastes copper. But he's smiling. Ma sees the smile and hesitates. Do-yun asks if Ma can hear them. The sirens. 3 patrol cars and an Hunter Association response unit are pulling into the hospital parking lot. The guard outside wasn't just unconscious, he had a panic button. Ma realizes he's trapped. The window is 4 stories up, and his right arm is useless. The door is blocked by the phone recording everything. The sirens are getting louder. Ma drops Do-yun and steps back. His face cycles through rage and calculation and something that looks almost like fear. He says this isn't over. Do-yun slides down the wall and sits on the cold floor with his busted ribs and his swollen eye and his bloody arm. He looks up at Ma Dong-hyun, the man who walked past him in an alley 6 weeks ago. The man who called him a party trick. The man who had everything. He says it is over. He says Ma just doesn't know it yet. The door bursts open and 6 association agents flood the room. Ma doesn't resist. He can't. One arm is dead, and the other is cuffed before he can think about using shockwave pulse in a confined space. The agents haul him out, and his sling gets caught on the door frame, and someone has to untangle it, and the whole thing is pathetic. Phone is still recording. The footage hits every platform within the hour. Ma Dong-hyun, former S-rank number 1, arrested for breaking and entering, assault, and attempted murder. The Hunter Association issues an emergency statement stripping his title and banning him from all sanctioned events. His remaining sponsors issue termination notices within 6 minutes of each other. An Ji-soo's article breaks the site's traffic record for the 2nd time in a month. Do-yun is discharged from the hospital 3 days later with a prescription for painkillers and instructions to avoid physical activity for 6 weeks. He ignores the second part. The watch hasn't stopped pulsing. It's warm against his wrist all the time now, a steady rhythm like a second pulse. He doesn't know what it means, but he knows it's not done with him yet. He meets Han at a diner near Haeundae Beach, and she slides a tablet across the table. Ma's trial is scheduled for next month, but the evidence is overwhelming. He's looking at 5 to 7 years. His lawyers are already floating an insanity defense. Do-yun stares at the tablet, and the coffee in front of him goes cold. Han asks what he's thinking. He says Ma in a cell isn't enough. He says Ma needs to lose in a way that can't be fixed by lawyers or appeals or time. He says he wants a final fight. Han tells him the association won't sanction it. Ma is banned. Do-yun says he doesn't need their sanction. He pulls out his phone and types a message to the number Ma used to post his threats. 3 lines. Old Factory District, Lot 17. Tomorrow at midnight. No rules. Han reads over his shoulder and says he's insane. Do-yun says Ma will show up. She asks why he's so sure. He says because Ma has nothing left to lose. He says a man with nothing left only has one thing he wants: revenge. She asks if Do-yun is that man too. He doesn't answer. The Old Factory District is 12 kilometers outside the city. A graveyard of rusted machinery and broken windows. Lot 17 is a textile mill that shut down in the 90s. The floor is concrete and the ceiling is high, and the only light comes from a single halogen bulb swinging from a chain. Do-yun arrives 40 minutes early. His ribs are still wrapped, but the tape is fresh, and he's wearing the Phoenix Guild jacket with the sleeves rolled up. The watch is warm and steady on his wrist. He stands in the center of the factory floor and waits. Ma Dong-hyun arrives at midnight exactly. He walks through the rusted loading door, and the halogen bulb casts his shadow long across the concrete. His right arm is out of the sling, hangs at his side like dead weight. The shoulder is still swollen, and the bruising has spread down to his elbow. His face is thinner than it was a week ago. Prison food and prison sleep. Or maybe just the weight of losing everything. He stops 10 meters from Do-yun, and they look at each other across the empty floor. Ma says there are no cameras here. No reporters. No referees. Do-yun says that's the point. Ma asks if he's ready to die. Do-yun says he's ready for Ma to finally shut up. Ma charges. Even with one arm dead, he's still faster than anyone Do-yun has faced. The distance closes in under 2 seconds. Do-yun triggers the watch. The whine fills his ears, and the world goes gray. And Ma is frozen mid-lunge with his left fist cocked back and his face twisted into a snarl. 14 seconds. Do-yun doesn't waste time on setups this time. He walks to the corner of the factory floor, where he stashed a duffel bag behind a rusted generator. He unzips it and pulls out a can of industrial-grade spray paint, neon orange, the kind used for marking construction sites. He walks back to Ma and sprays a circle on the back of Ma's jacket, a big one, right between the shoulder blades. Then he sprays an X through the circle. 7 seconds left. He walks to the far end of the factory where a chain hoist hangs from the ceiling. Chain is heavy iron, thick as his wrist, and it dangles 4 meters from the floor. He drags a wooden crate underneath it, climbs up, and loops a secondary chain through the hoist hook. 5 seconds. He walks back toward Ma and stops 3 meters away. He picks up a loose bolt from the floor, and positions it on the concrete directly in Ma's path. 2 seconds. He steps back and waits. Time slams back into motion. Ma's lunge carries him forward and his boot comes down on the bolt. His ankle rolls. He stumbles, and his momentum carries him into the crate beneath the chain hoist. His shoulder catches the edge of the crate, and the impact sends a scream tearing out of his throat. The 4 titanium anchors are already gone. The nerve damage is already flaring. Now the joint itself is dislocating. Ma collapses against the crate, and his left arm shakes as he tries to push himself up. He sees the chain dangling above him. He sees the spray paint on his own back reflected in a shattered window pane. He sees the target. Do-yun walks toward him, and Ma swings wildly with his left fist. Do-yun stops time. The world goes gray, and Ma's fist freezes an inch from Do-yun's nose. 14 seconds. He wraps the chain around Ma's left wrist. He loops it twice and hooks the end through the hoist mechanism. He walks to the control panel on the wall and presses the lift button. The hoist whines and the chain goes taut, and Ma's left arm is pulled straight up. 10 seconds. He walks back to Ma and looks at his face. The rage is still there, but underneath it is something else. Confusion. Fear. The realization that he can't win. He can't even fight back. 5 seconds. Do-yun steps away and waits. Time resumes. Ma's arm is yanked upward, and his body follows. He dangles from the chain with his dead arm hanging useless, and his left wrist pinned above his head. He kicks and twists, and the chain rattles, but the hoist holds. He screams at Do-yun to fight him like a man. Do-yun says he is fighting like a man. He says he's fighting like an E rank, who learned to survive because S ranks like Ma decided he wasn't worth saving. He says this is what an E rank looks like. Ma spits at him. Do-yun doesn't flinch. He walks to the duffel bag and pulls out the rest of the spray paint. He shakes the can and the rattle echoes through the empty factory. Ma asks what he's doing. Do-yun says he's making sure nobody forgets. He sprays a line across Ma's chest. Then another. Then another. Neon orange stripes that glow under the halogen bulb like a warning sign. Ma screams and curses, and the chain rattles, and the hoist groans, but nothing gives. Do-yun steps back and looks at his work. Ma Dong-hyun, the former number 1, the man who walked past a bleeding E rank in an alley, dangling from a chain hoist in an abandoned factory with his pants still torn from the arena, and neon orange paint across his chest. Do-yun pulls out his phone and takes a single photo. Ma begs him not to send it. His voice cracks on the word, please. Do-yun looks at him for a long moment. Then he lowers the phone. He says he's not going to send it. He says the world has already seen enough of Ma Dong-hyun. He says this one is just for himself. He walks to the control panel and lowers the hoist. Ma drops to the concrete and his legs give out and he lands on his knees. He doesn't get up. He just kneels there with his head down and his dead arm hanging, and the orange paint bright against his chest. Do-yun crouches in front of him. He says Ma could have helped him in that alley. 1 S rank. 30 seconds. That's all it would have taken. Ma doesn't look up. Do-yun says he didn't need Ma to save him. He just needed Ma to see him. He says Ma looked at him like he was nothing, and that was worse than the beating. Ma's shoulders shake. Do-yun stands up and walks toward the loading door. Behind him, Ma finally speaks. His voice is hoarse and small, and nothing like the man who commanded an arena 2 weeks ago. He asks what Do-yun wants him to do now. Do-yun stops at the door and looks back. He says he wants Ma to remember what it feels like to be nothing. He says that's the only punishment that matters. Then he walks out into the cold night air. His ribs ache and his eye is still tender, and he's pretty sure he pulled a stitch somewhere. The watch is warm on his wrist, and his hands are steady. Han Ji-soo is waiting in her car at the edge of the lot. She asks if it's done. Do-yun says it's done. She asks if Ma is dead. Do-yun says no. He says Ma is alive and alone in an empty factory covered in orange paint. He says Ma has 5 to 7 years in a cell to think about what happened tonight. Han looks at him for a long moment, and then she smiles. She says the ghost of Busan finally finished the job. Do-yun leans his head back against the seat and closes his eyes. Watch pulses once, warm and steady, and for the first time since the alley, the pain behind his left eye goes quiet.